Smith, he drops it in. Anaya Smith with a cutback. Still on his feet. Down to the 6-yard line. It's a goal to go for the Aggies.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Clifford, man in his face, launches to the end zone. Trying to high point it and getting it is Parker Washington. My, oh my!
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Here's a give. Abanikanda trying to fight left side and breaks free. Outstanding touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
And he's bottled up at the 26. He fumbled the football, and Oregon has it. It's Sewell. Look out. Sideline. He's pushed out.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
That one is almost picked. It is picked. Back inside the 30, Clark Phillips.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go. 365 Sports on this really pretty Friday. Still a little bit chilly, but so beautiful compared to the last 2 or 3 days. Here in the middle of Central Texas, 365 Sports with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. To my right and left, I'm David Smoak. Also today, we have Garrett Ross, Jack McKenzie, and Faith Lynch in the studio. We will hear today from Brett McMurphy of the Action Network on the story that Pete Thamel had, and so did Brett, and so did others. We'll get to that in a moment on Oklahoma, Texas, the Big 12, Fox, and ESPN trying to work something out that doesn't appear as if, at least right now, that it looks good of them leaving early, which they want to do, and everyone else is ready to move on. Also, Grayson Grunhafer, John McClain will have Baylor linebackers coach Christian Robinson today, and Paul's top 5 today. We will be in Phoenix next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for coverage from Super Bowl 57 on NFL Media Radio Row. That will be sometime next week. So here's Pete Thamel earlier today, and then others, of course, had this as well. The effort for Oklahoma and Texas to leave the Big 12 a year early, join the SEC in 2024, has stalled, and at this point is unlikely to come to fruition. Now, Texas and Oklahoma will join the SEC with that, and that's what the original, at least that's what they said, was 2025, as parties couldn't come to terms amid a complex negotiation between the schools, Oklahoma, Texas, 2 networks, ESPN and Fox, and also the Big 12. I had someone, I texted out to a couple of people, and they said, there's still a 50-50 chance. It's not dead, but it is obviously at a crossroads, and they can't let this linger too much longer. But it's not dead, although the clock is ticking. We knew that. And I think, really, honestly, Fox needs something in return. They're going to lose Texas OU. They're looking for some kind of sugar in return. So at least for right now, it appears as if for another 2 years, not just one, although things can change, Texas OU remain in the Big 12.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember here when you're thinking about this is that, Texas and OU win here. The Big 12 wins here. ESPN wins here because they get Texas and OU, but the loser in that 3-way negotiation is Fox because there always has to be, right? And it is 7 games that they are potentially not going to have of Texas and Oklahoma if that happens. So those are big draws, and those will be – not only will they be big draws normally, but year one in their new conference. So when you think about the biggest time or one of the bigger times that you're going to have a big draw for Texas and OU for ratings in the SEC is the first time that OU plays Alabama, right? The first time that Texas plays Tennessee, the first time A&M and Texas play each other again and after over a decade. Like, those are going to be big numbers that ESPN is guaranteed to get and Fox will not have. And Fox will have a game up against those, which will probably be in second place. So they need to have, those things, put back, their pocketbook made whole. And I'm not sure if there's a way to exactly do that without them really taking a hit.
Yeah, it's very interesting, although very much unsettled still. You know, I feel like we've had multiple Texas-Oklahoma reports, and everybody immediately acts like there's some finality with these reports. And it's just like, no, it's a constantly evolving and moving thing, clearly. I mean, this report today doesn't guarantee that this is the end of the road. We could be talking about another version of this story or a similar version in a couple of weeks, in a couple of months, at the end of the year. I mean, like, a few different things come to mind for me. For one, what is the drop dead date? I mean, again, until we know that there is this harsh cutoff of when they have to declare to go join the SEC, like, this is just going to be talked about and bandied about for months. So, I mean, I think it's interesting. I think that there's maybe for the first time in some of those reports acknowledgement of like, oh, they could actually be around 2 more years. Like, there's actually more maybe coming to grips with that could be reality, which is something that's relatively new. But again, there's still a lot of space for them to be able to still leave and join the SEC next year. It's just that space is getting lower and lower with each passing day.
Don't you also think, Craig, that everyone kind of had their hopes up that we were close, that they were closer than further away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, no, well, I mean, if you'll remember, and it's not like you can just go and account for, you know, singling out people, and I don't really want to do that anyways, but there were, whether it was media or whether it was just, you know, everyday people, you know, college football fans of respective teams, that when the story got leaked the first time, they're out of here. They're leaving the Big 12. Well, then last year happened. Well, they're definitely out of here after this one. Well, then next year's going to happen. Well, they're definitely, you know, and so it's kind of just funny looking back on it that this, oh, they're bolting, and they could play another 3 years, or when it all is said and done, they've played 3 years since that story was leaked. So, yeah, I think there was a lot of false hope. You just assumed, oh, they're just going to pay this buyout and be done with it, or the Big 12 is going to cave and let them walk, or, you know, Fox and ESPN and everybody will come to an agreement, and everybody just assumed that they would get their way, and maybe they still do in the end, but they haven't so far. So that is an interesting element to this.
And the key is, I know that Texas and Oklahoma are the ones that get slapped around here because of, well, what happened and how it happened, whatever. But let's also know Fox could be the fly in the ointment and have every right to be if they want more value in return.
If I'm Fox, I'm absolutely going to fight until the bitter end and either make them stay where I won't lose any money at all, or make sure that it's really, really small. And the reason I think it's going to be hard to replace is I'll just take the Texas OU game. So if you're Fox, you're losing the Texas OU game straight up and down. It's going to ESPN. Bottom line, they're going to have that. They're going to get those ratings. ESPN, ABC, it's going to be on one of those 2 stations every single year, early in October at 11 o'clock in the morning. They're going to lose that day that they used to get every other year, right? So they're going to lose that day. Well, so they're going to lose one of those. They were going to lose the one in 2024 if this happened earlier. So you can, if you're the Big 12, because this was the whole problem and the reason they had to expand in the first place, you cannot, and Fox is not expecting equal value of you saying, like, listen, we know that you're losing Texas OU, but how about we offer you, you know, Baylor and TCU on that day? And they're going to be like, well, I mean, that's true. It's a fine game, but, you know, it's not a historic rivalry with a name.
When Bob Thompson was on with us, one of the things he mentioned was that they would need something after Texas and Oklahoma leave. So it would need to be a non-conference game involving Texas or Oklahoma against what is going to be the Big 12 when they leave, right?
Yeah.
That's the nugget, because they would still get the logos, the image, and also the eyeballs of Texas and Oklahoma. And then some of the Big 12 teams would still be able to get a meaty non-conference game, and then Fox would get something with those logos.
And maybe that still happens, although, again, time is kind of running short on that, because you'd have to, situate that game if it's Oklahoma versus Oklahoma State and Texas versus one of the Texas schools. Like, you'd have to kind of know if you're going to play that in 2024 or if you're going to play that in 25 or whenever you're going to play that, because everybody's got to get their schedule situated. And now you're dealing with 2 different conferences trying to set schedules. So, yeah, that was an interesting idea, and maybe that's still how it happens. But, again, that leads me back to just my main question with all of this is, what's the drop-dead date? Because if we at least knew that, then we could say, all right, we're a month away, and they still don't have a deal done. But, like, right now, we know that it can't be 2 years. We know that it can't be a full year. But do they need to get it done in 6 months? Do they need to have it done by media days? When does it have to be done by? And that's what I'm very curious about, because I know there's some flexibility. It's not like it's January 1st, it's not that firm, but there has to be a date where all of a sudden you are crossing that threshold. And so I really just would like to know what that is, because I think that would paint a far clearer picture.
There are trade deadlines, and they are deadlines. And then yet again, we've seen unions negotiate when it comes to sports, pro sports, whatever. And, man, there's 97 different swaying back and forth, the pendulum of emotion of what's happening. But, by God, there's a deadline. There is a deadline.
Look.
And there is no deadline. Brett McMurphy's going to join us, by the way, at 3:20. He has a little bit of insight into that as well.
Yeah. Jerry Jones, deadlines make deals. He says it all the time. And they do. And so we'll see when that deadline actually is. And it's not probably a hard and fast one at this exact moment, but eventually it will be. The other thing is funny about this to me is, so you are – and it's kind of ironic this is happening at Fox, given the example I'm about to get. But Texas and OU are leaving the Big 12 because they don't want to play the Big 12 anymore. They've decided that playing the rest of the teams in the Big 12 is less beneficial to them than going in the SEC. So they're saying, we don't want to hear you. We don't play anymore. And then you're telling them, if you're Fox, that, in order to make it whole, you're going to have to play them like a little bit more. So we get those non-conference games on the back end, which I know that they don't have it anymore, but they were the station that had American Idol. And American Idol has one of the stupidest things in the world to me, in that when a singer gets voted off, they let them sing one more time after America's told every American Idol, no, we're done with this idiot. Like, please send them away. I don't want to hear him sing anymore. That's kind of what Fox is doing to Texas and OU. And like, look, we understand that this whole thing is happening because you don't want to play them anymore, but you're going to have to do it a couple times.
Yeah,
So,
potentially.
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, that's maybe if they do it that way, if they trade it off to where there is, some banner non-conference game that offsets what lost inventory they'll have, potentially that could be the case. But yeah, I mean, I just wonder about what a firm line is in the sand, as far as you're either staying around for one more year or you are going and making your debut. But, man, to have all of this talk and all of the frustrations and everything, and to potentially see, not only are we going to for sure see one more football season, but potentially two, it's just kind of, I'm sure, frustrating more than funny. But to me, it's kind of funny, too, because just it's a lot of talk about nothing, in the end, as far as
just like a lot of negotiations.
Like as far as the jump to the SEC and all of that. I mean, we've been talking about it for 2 years already, basically, and now there could be another 2 years. It's kind of, or a year and a half. It's just kind of funny and weird how that's all worked out. But again, it's not all entirely worked out, so we will see. But yeah, I wonder how long this can go. I don't believe it's dead by any means. I think there's still very much a way for them to get out. We just don't know the particular details on that, obviously. But I know that there's also, and it's probably just a minority on Twitter that, feel this way, and it's probably just hyperbole as well, or just, a throwaway comment of, well, just let him go at this point. Like, I'm sick of this. I'm sure you guys have seen that comment of, like, we're all done with this. Let's just no. Get your money and get what you deserve, and then you let them walk. And I'm glad that the Big 12 is not trying to make this easy, because they shouldn't. This is the most leverage that they'll have had in years, and that they will likely have in a very long time. So, no, you're not going to make it easy on them. You just had to go through hell and back trying to save the conference because of them. And I know there's been other departures before, and I'm not, singling out the Big 12's woes just on Texas and Oklahoma, because I know what they meant to the conference. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, you've gone this far. The last thing you're going to do is try to make it easy on them. So I know that's just, like I said, just social media talk. But if there is anybody of that mindset, like, yeah, just let them walk or no, absolutely not. Get every shiny little penny that you can from them, and every little TV date that you can from them, and milk that dry while you can, because there is another side of this when they are gone that you're never going to get back. So while you have them, you better take advantage of it.
Well, we'll have Brett McMurphy, in fact, coming up in the next segment. He's got a story out. Pete Thamel had something, and others have also had their stories on this, which is interesting. Of course, the Big 12 meetings, as we've told you all throughout the week, today and yesterday. Mack Rhodes joined us on Wednesday, mainly about the schedule, and most of what we've talked about this week is the schedule. There's other items on the agenda But this was one. The other one, Gonzaga. And eventually Mac Rose will join us to kind of summarize it, and also Brett McMurphy. But, yep, so that's right now. That's where they are. And we'll ask Brett, what is the deadline? Again, I want to share that I got a text today from somebody that's a part of the Big 12 Conference who said it's not done. It's like it's not over. There is a 50-50 chance, which is better than man, they're on fumes. 50-50 means 50% no, too, but that it's not completely dead in the water and there is still work to be done. Again, if everybody wants what they want, they'll figure it out. But Fox is going to have to get something out of it, too. This is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty and his staff can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be. As you get older, I heard a commercial about low T and all that the other day, and they mentioned when you get in your 40s. Sometimes it can be earlier than that, but that's probably about the time Father Time starts to take over a little bit more of things in your body or things inside your body, like your testosterone. Sometimes people just never deal with that. Like some people never have to deal with high cholesterol. Some people don't have to worry about high blood pressure. But testosterone can be lowered as you get older. And you may not even because it's anything you've done. It's just inside your body it happens. Dr. Kent Petty, PettyClinicLowT.com. Contact them. They will then set up an appointment for you to get your blood work. He gets the results. If your testosterone level is too low, he can put you in a program to increase it, and you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
The President's Day sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the great selection of new cars, trucks, and SUVs and get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler sedans, and minivans, or a sporty Dodge. Get more for less, guaranteed. More value, more selection, more service, and more trade-in allowance. And of course, if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams and order it today. It's the President's Day sales event happening right now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automatichefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Brett McMurphy, Action Network HQ, covers college football like a blanket. And also today, the story involving Oklahoma, Texas, Fox Sports, ESPN, the Big 12, and much more. Brett joins Craig Paul and David Smoak. And good afternoon, Brett. We appreciate your time. One of the notes about today's story, and I think everyone was kind of getting their hopes up across the board, but there was always that fly in the ointment being possibly Fox Sports. But what timeline is there? I had a text that said that this isn't done. It's a 50-50 chance. There's a lot of work to be done, but is there a drop-dead timeline in your opinion?
I really don't think there is. I got that from several people that they didn't believe there's a set deadline. I reached out to some sources in the SEC because I said, what's the latest OU and Texas could make their decision if they're going to join in 2024, and they said they really haven't established a set date themselves. And then relayed the fact, which I forgot this, I guess the year or the season that Missouri joined the SEC, I think the decision was made in November, and then they ended up playing the following September, that football season. So, they went as late as November, so that's still, 8-9 months away. I think realistically, though, we're looking at probably a couple of months, to get this thing done. But again, it's a self-imposed deadline. And, the good news is all 5 parties want this to happen. The challenging part of it is all 5 parties have to feel like they were made whole, or they weren't, taking less money or compensation or whatever it is to have this deal done. And that's what makes this thing a little bit tricky.
Yeah, Brett, the way I guess, ESPN wins because they're getting them no matter what. So any of the Texas OU money on TV will automatically go to them. Both the conferences win because everybody gets what their conference is going to be sooner and this ends. But Fox, I guess, can't really win. They're the one who's going to have to take it on the chin the most. And if I were them, I would hold out as long as I could to make sure I got every penny I could.
Well, they can hold out forever and the deal doesn't get done. I mean, you need all 5 parties to agree. If Fox says, whatever Fox is being offered, if they said that's not enough, this doesn't get done. You can't have 4 or 5 agree. You can't have 3 of 5. You can't have 2 of 5. And it doesn't matter. I'm not just signaling Fox. If Oklahoma decides, this doesn't work and the other 4 parties do, it's not going to happen. If the Big 12 decides it's not going to happen, the other 4 parties were fine with it, it's not going to happen. So I understand, everybody wants to blame somebody, and I guess technically you could blame Fox, but there's no right or wrong answer on what Fox should receive. I mean, they're losing Oklahoma and Texas in 2024 if this happens, and they're losing some high magnitude games. So how should they be compensated with that? There's a number of different ways they've thought about doing it, whether it's play future non-conference games in Big 12 stadiums. But you guys know that the schedule with that, everybody's scheduled out 10 years. That's what I reported in September, that both ADs at OU and OSU told me that Bedlam's done when OU goes to the SEC. It's not they don't want to play anymore. It's because they're both scheduled out for a dozen years. The same as with Texas. So you can't tell Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, I guess you can. Hey, cancel some future non-conference games. You can go play a game, a season at Cincinnati or at Texas Tech or at Baylor or whatever. You may be okay with that. They may not be okay with that, but it's just not that simple. But you're right. Fox is the trickiest one of this whole deal because they're the ones that are, technically losing the most and have to be compensated for what they're losing to agree to go ahead and move forward. But no, it's not like Fox can say, forget it. You can't do enough for us. We're not going to do it. And then everybody's stuck till 2025.
So, Brett, 2 summers ago now it was that Brent Zorneman's report comes out, and the world is changed forever as Oklahoma and Texas are now going to be going to the SEC. And then that's led to now what's been over a year of, talk and negotiations and exit talks and all that stuff. Had that not happened, had this all happened on Oklahoma and Texas's timeline, do you have any idea of how different this would look in terms of their exits and how that all would have unfolded?
I don't really think that, the timing of it getting out, I don't really think that would have changed anything because, again, OU and Texas signed a grant of rights, which goes through, June 30th of 2025. So that wouldn't have changed. I mean, maybe if they wouldn't have got out, they could have, gotten things lined up better. But still, ultimately, we would still have these same issues. If they're trying to get out a year early, Fox would have to be compensated. Maybe they could have come up with an agreement with Fox. Maybe they would have had more time to kind of figure out how they would, attack this. But ultimately, I don't really think it would change much at all. Because still, bottom line, they're locked into the conference until June 30th, 2025, unless they come to an agreement to get out early. And obviously, it's not just the Big 12 that has to agree to that, but it's also ESPN and Fox.
All right, Brett McMurphy with us. Again, Action Network HQ on the Texas, Oklahoma, Fox, ESPN, Big 12 and all. Brett, did you get any kind of an idea of the reaction? Again, one of the texts I got was not giving up hope that there was a chance, and as long as there's a chance, there's a chance. But did you get any kind of feedback on the reaction? Is everyone just kind of like, okay, or frustrated?
I don't think frustrated is the right word. I think they know how challenging this is to get this done. And again, when I reported in December that there was growing momentum for this to happen, all 5 parties want this to happen with the big if, everybody's financially whole. So I don't think it's necessarily frustration. I think they keep negotiating, they keep moving forward. And now it's almost kind of like they've kind of, I don't want to say hit a brick wall, but it's, there's kind of been some, it's kind of, they're kind of spinning the wheels right now. And so I guess frustration could be a way to put it. Somebody told me this morning, hey, look, this is not officially dead. They don't believe that. They still think this can get worked out. And, who knows, maybe, with some of the stuff getting aired publicly, maybe that makes Fox more eager to negotiate or maybe bend a little bit more than they've been willing to. I don't know. Maybe there's something, ESPN can do to help. Maybe there's something OU, Texas, and the Big 12 can do to help also. I don't know. Again, it's not just simply one aspect of this whole deal. All 5 of them, have to agree. And by changing something for one of them, it kind of impacts the other 4. So it's not simply a do A and B happens. It's, do A, B, C, and D, and then hopefully E happens.
Brett, would I be foolish in assuming that, maybe both conferences, but the SEC has a contingency plan like tomorrow morning if we wake up and this is ready to go, or 5 months from now, like you said, the Missouri thing happened in November, they've already got a schedule and a plan ready for when they roll out in 2024?
I think they probably have an idea what they want to do, but they have not approved anything as far as 2024. If Oklahoma and Texas come on board, then they certainly will call that meeting, maybe that day, and start figuring that out. But no, it's not like they don't have a schedule template that they're going to pop out the second that OU and Texas announce they're coming in 2024. They still have to go through those motions and figure that out. And, I think ultimately they would end up with 9 games. You would think with a 16-team conference, you want to play 9 conference games. But again, that has not officially happened. There are some in the SEC, the weaker programs, if you will, weaker football programs, you can figure out who they are, prefer to stay at 8, but ultimately I think they would go to 9. but yeah, they don't have a they don't already have a pre-printed schedule saying, Oklahoma's playing at Alabama and October 4th in 2024. They got to figure all that out still.
Brett, if Fox got out of the way, or Fox wasn't the one standing in the way here, any idea on your end of what that, the concessions or the agreements would have looked like between the conference in Oklahoma and Texas in terms of would it have just been a financial penalty? What do you think possibly could have been worked out if there wasn't obviously this TV network that's got the right standing in the way?
Well, I mean, there's the exit fee, obviously, that they've got to, that they're required to pay. However, I've talked to several people at all different power leagues, and because I had a question in the early going with this. I'm like, why do you even negotiate with these schools that are leaving conferences? You've got a signed contract that says they pay X amount, and the answer was, well, if we tell them to pay that amount and they say, no, we're not going to pay that. We don't feel we should pay that full amount for whatever reason. And then they want to, take legal action. Then, maybe there's a loophole and they get out of paying the whole thing and they don't want to do that. And so it was, kind of eye-opening to me. And I guess I really didn't realize it, but all of these schools that have changed conferences, they end up usually only paying about 65% of what it says they should pay in the exit fee. So, you would guess, again, if the Big 12 is kind of doing the same thing that the ACC did when Maryland left, and, other conferences that have made moves recently, I would think would be in that 60% range. But again, OU and Texas also have revenue that's tied into the Big 12 in 2024. So by going to the SEC, what happens to that revenue? Do they, does some of that stay with the Big 12 as part of the exit agreement? I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can go about this, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't specifically know what that would be.
I do believe this, and don't you, Brett? And thank you very much for your time today, a busy day. But I do believe that the 8 teams that are still a part of the Big 12, once Texas and Oklahoma leave, and yes, there's the incoming 4, but I think that the fan bases and I think athletic departments would be pretty angry if there's not a pretty good check written in many ways to take care of them with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. They're going to pay no matter what, whether they leave in 24 or 25, but don't you think that most of them want your Mark to get every piece of skin he can?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to let OU and Texas just skate and just like, okay, fine, good luck. No, I think they'll be compensated. And when when you say that, I don't know what that magic number is, but yeah, I think the remaining 8 will be compensated, and that's happened in other leagues. That's happened in all the schools that left the American for the Big 12. The remaining schools in the American, they're dividing up the exit fees that Cincinnati, and Houston have paid, and UCF. So yeah, I think that would be similar. And I don't necessarily believe or think that the incoming 4 schools would benefit from any of that revenue from what Texas and OU are paying. But yeah, obviously, again, that gets back to what we initially talked to. Everybody needs to feel like that they are made whole. And obviously, the Big 12 is not going to feel like they're made whole unless they get some compensation, from OU, Texas, ESPN, Fox, whoever, by letting OU and Texas leave early.
Brett, you know what? College football used to be in the fall, and there were, spring drills, recruiting, national signing day in February. But they're getting pretty close to the NFL, aren't they? With your job and what we try to do as well, that the college football is a 12-month-a-year season now?
It really is. It's not as organized as the NFL. The NFL actually regulates when free agents can sign and when you can talk to coaches. And I just think about this, and I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Imagine if colleges would have to announce, we just interviewed Nick Saban for the Colorado job. Think of how the fan bases would melt down the way the NFL does it. We just finished our second interview with Todd Monken. They're just like, okay, fine. We interviewed him here. Everybody knows about it. Imagine that with college, but no, you're right. it's 365 now, but that's why we love it. And with the transfer portal and the coaching carousel, never ending. Who knows? I haven't been online in the past hour, so I don't know if Tommy Rees is headed to Alabama or not. But
he is. Yep, he is.
Okay, so Harbaugh is still sniffing around the NFL. So there's always going to be movement, and then realignment. Like Neil Young, the original song, it was too wordy, but it was realignment never sweeps. So it's a crazy song.
Brett, thank you very much on a busy day. Appreciate your time and insight.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Brett McMurphy, Action Network, at Brett_McMurphy, with us with more of the insight, giving us some background on the story that came down earlier today, that at least for now, nothing came out of the Big 12 meetings other than nothing, kicking the can down the road.
Okay, I asked him this question, and I probably could have followed back up, but I know we were trying to kind of cram in a lot there, so I'll just now we have some time to kind of sit on it. Let me re-ask it this way. Had Brent Zwerneman's story not dropped, and I asked him what the timeline would look like for Texas and Oklahoma, and he said, well, it probably wouldn't have been all that different, but here's the difference, and it would have been, I think, probably too much back and forth to try to get a clear conversation going. But the way that it unfolded is Brent Zwerneman's story drops. Everybody goes scrambling. The Big 12 goes and adds 4 schools. That has a domino effect. So if Oklahoma and Texas story doesn't get broken by Brett Zwerneman, when does it break? And if they don't do it anytime in the last couple of years, then how does that affect the Big 12 being able to save itself?
Yeah, the Pac-12 would probably have already moved on with all their stuff, right? Their business.
Because they would have already been affected by Kevin Warren probably anyways, or would they? Because... Again,
would
he had to get...
would the Big Ten had reacted because of the SEC adding Texas OU?
Were they already talking to USC, UCLA, or was that something that was a result of Oklahoma and Texas and suddenly seeing oh, wow, there's this whole new world suddenly opened up to where we can go maybe become nationalized ourselves or whatever? All of that felt like it was a domino effect. So if Brent Zwerneman doesn't drop that story... When do Oklahoma and Texas actually announce? And if it's a year later, then do they get BYU? Or maybe BYU because it's an independent is still doable. But the American schools, are they affected the same way? That's something that I always wonder, because has that story dropped yet? If it doesn't get leaked back then, I'm sure it would have been leaked somehow or another over the last 18 months. But that's what I'm just so curious about is the timing of how that got dropped and when it did. If it happens any other way, this probably doesn't look the way that it's going to look now or looks currently or will look here in the immediate future. And to what degree, to me, is sort of fascinating, even though we'll never really know.
Well, I do think that, and I think you're right, Craig. I think you're very correct in assuming that Texas and OU did not want that to get out then, and they probably didn't want it to get out maybe until the end of at least that season.
Right.
That way that they could kind of, grease the skids a little bit. But Texas not thinking that Texas A&M would get that information and immediately go, no, what would have been kind of a fool's errand. So maybe they did. I'm not saying that Texas didn't think that, but if they did
Isn't there also a deadline if they're going to leave the conference? They have to do it within a certain amount of months. They have to inform the conference.
Yeah, but I mean,
what are they doing right now?
But if they're still leaving, if their plan was always to leave at the end, right?
Right. Well, they still have time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So they'd still have time even now. So if their plan was just to leave it out for 6 months, 8 months until the football season was over, then announce in January or February, and instead of at media days, but. I would have to assume that Texas and OU thought A&M hears that especially Texas is coming. They're not going to take this news well.
No.
Considering that
they felt like they had their own neighborhood.
But they could they said all the things that the SEC provides us this and this and that. But the press conference could have been, why are you coming to the SEC? We're sick of Texas. Really? That's it? Yes, that's it. That's the reason.
Nomahi, USC was already leaving regardless of Oklahoma, Texas. They were thinking about going independent back in 2018. Golden Age Gamer, I think USC and UCLA to the Big Ten was a response by both teams and the Big Ten The alliance, of course, we know was a sham.
And so, yeah, that's two different opinions on the same thing there. And, we can debate on, the original report on Oklahoma and Texas and how that affected dominoes. But I do think that will make a fantastic, book for like Ross Dellinger or Brett McMurphy or whoever one day. And we get some more of the details. And y'all are right. I mean, you'd have to announce there was no scenario in which Oklahoma and Texas were going to be able to drop the story on their own and then be out the door the next day. Yeah. Like there was always going to be a countdown and a final tour and a long goodbye. Like that was all inevitable because that's the way the rules are. But still, how long would they have held on to that? Would that have been something that dropped at last summer's media days on their own merit? Or, how does that go? But you're right. There's no way that they probably knew that there was a chance this could get leaked, but there was absolutely no way in hell that if they had their own way, were hoping that it would be through an A&M reporter. Like, that was definitely not the plan in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, A&M said, hey, we need you to pop this and do it now.
Yeah, that was not part of the OU Texas SEC plan for sure. We can say that pretty definitively because it just wouldn't be.
Well, look, if you got a divorce and your ex-wife moved in next door, do you think you found out first because you've got custody, you think you'd keep that secret from the rest of your friends? Probably not. Yeah. Like, the first thing I would do, I'd find out, you're not going to believe who's moving in.
Right.
I would be pissed.
All right, we need to break. Grayson Grunhafer is going to join us, and we'll get back into this a little bit more in the 4 o'clock hour. But it is an interesting day, and it's true that college football, after they screwed up the month of December and allowed the NFL to steal some they didn't have to steal them, they just opened the door for them to take some of the days because they're so inept as far as their scheduling. It has become 12 months a year. It's good for us, it's good for you. And today, again, the story about today, Oklahoma's Fox, ESPN, Texas, etc. S. Michael DeHart, thanks for the $25 super chat. The story today could be different Monday. As Craig mentioned, and then different in 2 months, and then different in 4 months, and it could go up and down. You don't get too high with it. I do believe that there was some thought and hope that maybe they were going to be able to figure this out, move on, and at least for now, not. That's not the case. From S. Michael DeHart on the super chat, Smokey, in honor of my 59th birthday tomorrow, I wanted to buy you, Craig, Paul, and the boys a beer on me. Only request toast. My old man, 59th, laugh out loud. A toast to you, S. Michael DeHart.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much for your time. Happy birthday to you, and we appreciate the super chat. All right, when we come back, Grayson Grunhafer and more on Baylor coming off that big Junior Champions Day, and everybody focused now on 2024, at least the class of 2024. This is 365 Sports. Dr. Rob Maxey and Ideal MRI have done something fantastic with their business. And for you, the customer, yeah, they're a business, and they are doing really well. But you also benefit from what they do, which is provide an MRI machine, which is state-of-the-art, and then also make sure that they keep the cost down of an MRI that can be in the neighborhood of, on average, $1,100. So that means there's something higher than that out there. Ideal MRI is $497 or less every single time, whether it's once or twice, or if you have to unfortunately go in there and have an MRI with their equipment 3 or 4 times. They will find out what is bothering you, muscle, ligament, anything else. They'll save you money, $497 or less every single time in the Central Texas marketplace, just on the southern part of Waco off I-35 on the west side of 35, idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Welcome back to 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Grayson Grundhafer of SicEm365.com. Brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
We will get to Grayson here in just a second, but one of the stories that is now, and we had Brett McMurphy, and he even brought it up, Tommy Rees, Notre Dame offensive coordinator, is now officially the offensive coordinator for Nick Saban and Alabama. And I see kind of a little bit of both reactions to this, including Michael Campbell, who's on our text line, who's like, thank you. A lot of fans do that with assistant coaches, even coaches, when they move on. So Notre Dame has a new offensive coordinator. Alabama has a new offensive coordinator in Tommy Rees.
Yeah, I mean, that should be great for, the quarterback room and, the offense in general, but to what level he's going to be able to, have that offense humming along like they're used to in Alabama, is remains to be seen. But, yeah, I've seen split opinions on this one, so, we'll have to give it some time and let it breathe a little bit. But not the grand slam home run hire that just got everybody on board unanimously, and maybe not the biggest name in the world either, given, some of the stuff that was being tossed around as candidates. But, yeah, interesting hire, and we'll see what Marcus Freeman now does in response.
Grayson Grundhafer, 365 Sports, SicEm365.com, senior recruiting analyst and also a coordinator, joins us on the show. Grayson, of course, they had the big junior weekend. Your thoughts about what did they expect as far as numbers of commitments? Did they just kind of like getting to shake hands with these guys? Did they expect more since that weekend ended?
I would say that this was more of a relationship building type weekend. It was also a weekend where, Baylor had a lot of their priority guys on campus, but they didn't have a ton of guys on campus. So I think the number was settled right around like 35, 36, something right in that area. And the whole point of it was that every position coach could talk to basically every single player. It was kind of just this mix and match of, coaches going around table by table, talking to different recruits, getting to know them, getting to know their family. And I think that was probably the biggest part of this weekend. And the other thing of it is, and I know Craig and I have talked about this, but currently the numbers Baylor is working with right now is like 15 or 16 scholarship spots. Now, that will, in my eyes, that will probably change by the time this class settles. But right now, they're just not working with that many available spots. And if they're going to increase that number, they'll take a lot of attrition. So I think that's probably a big reason why you're not seeing a ton of commitments from this weekend. But I would also say that I think they brought in a lot of priority guys who have a lot of interest from a lot of other places. And so for that reason, those recruiting battles were not going to be won just this weekend. There's going to be some time, and, those prospects are going to want to take some other visits and potentially take official visits before making decisions.
Grayson Walker-White made his decision. He's going to Auburn. Actually, that kind of surprised me. I thought it would have been Clemson. But Baylor was in the top 3. Does that make them feel better about where they would be with the rest of the QB class that they got that far down the road with Walker-White? Or where do they stand now that he's at least off the board for the time being?
Frankly, I was stunned that he chose Auburn. Everyone was putting in crystal balls for Clemson. I think that was the natural reaction because of the simple fact that he visited Clemson over the weekend for their junior day. But ultimately, a huge, huge win for Hugh Freeze. So, kudos to that staff. That's a huge gift for them. That was Baylor's top quarterback prospect on the board, and the guy that they really invested a lot of time in. Now, obviously, a very different situation, and I know people want to compare it to the Austin Novosad situation, but it's only February. There's plenty of time to regroup, go figure out some other guys who could become priorities. They brought in a quarterback for junior day in Deuce Adams, the quarterback from New Braunfels Canyon. They haven't offered him yet, but he's a guy who's got a lot of interest from the Baylor staff. And I think they're going to look at some other prospects from out of the state as well, while also maybe recruiting some of the guys that have offers that are maybe committed elsewhere. But I think in general, you're probably going to see Baylor start to evaluate again and start to look around for some of these other prospects that maybe had really good junior years, guys who are out of state that they can go recruit and start building a relationship with. So in my eyes, this is more of just a pivot situation for the staff, even though it is one that is a tough miss because they were able to get him on campus. Dave Aranda and Sean Bell went and visited him last week as well. So there's a lot of, factors there where Baylor was spending a lot of time on him, but they have plenty of time to regroup, go figure out their next quarterback priority because they will be taking one in the 2024 class.
Yeah, I don't understand the comparisons to the Austin Novosad situation. The comparison there would be if Walker-White committed and stayed committed till the night before signing day. So I don't know how that's really – they got plenty of time in comparison to try and find the new quarterback. I don't think that those are really the same things there. But, that's interesting and a good get for Auburn. The schedule dropped earlier this week. What were your kind of immediate thoughts with you got first glance at it?
Right. So I think first glance, it was really cool to see that 3 of the new Big 12 teams are on the schedule, and 2 of them are on the road. So I think that's going to be really fun and new environments. I'm particularly excited for that game against UCF in Orlando. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I know all of these new schools are going to be super excited to play all these teams. For some of them for the first time, others they've gotten to play in the past, but I think that was the biggest thing that stood out. Obviously, I know a lot of people are going to talk about the fact that Oklahoma State and Oklahoma weren't on the schedule. So I think that's a big deal. I think that's definitely something worth talking about since, Baylor's played those schools consistently for years now. But I think ultimately the coolest part is the fact that they're getting to play these newcomers. They get to play Texas again in Waco, which I know is something that Baylor probably wanted because I don't think they want that series to end with that loss in Austin a year ago. So those were the main things to me. And I think ultimately you look at the schedule, and I think it's actually a very favorable one for Baylor. And just kind of going through it, the end of the year schedule gets pretty tough with that Kansas State and TCU matchup. But I think just looking at it, my initial reaction was I think this is easily a schedule where they could go 8-4, 9-3, and potentially be in the running for a Big 12 championship when November rolls around, which really is all you can ask for. And I know that's a lot of predicting, a lot of looking ahead, but I will say this schedule does feel eerily similar to the one that TCU had this year, in which they had 8 home games on the schedule, and that played a huge role in them being able to win all those close games.
Yeah, Grayson, I was just going to ask you about the 8 home games. If you're not going to set yourself, I mean, we don't know how the roster is going to shake out, how, all these things are going to change, but as far as the schedule was last year, it was a bear when it came to the road games where they had to go, and even some of those games they won were tough. Here, I don't think you could have asked for a better one.
I would agree with you, and I think last year, they got off that tough start because they had to go to BYU, and it just was a tough environment. Baylor's passing game was not quite where, it needed to be, and they just struggled. And ultimately, let's be honest, they played BYU at probably the worst time when BYU was still healthy and still playing well. And BYU just was able to grind that one out. So I think this year, Baylor gets those 4 home games right at the beginning. Their first, I believe, in their first 6, 5 of them are at home. The only road one is to UCF, which I know it's kind of like one of those matchups where everyone's thinking, oh, that's going to be a crazy atmosphere, and it probably will be. But that stadium is not massive compared to the ones that they've seen and the places that they've been, when you look at Texas and different places like that. But I think ultimately getting to play them a little bit later on the schedule, getting through that first month and getting to figure out who their team is before going on the road, I think that sets up really nicely for this team.
Grayson, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. I know you've had a busy stretch, incredibly busy with the National Signing Day, even though it was the one, Corey Kelly, and then, of course, the Champions Weekend for the juniors. Do you feel like Central Texas has more higher-level names because of Kobe Black, obviously the kids from Lake Belton, Micah Hudson, the cornerback, the offensive lineman, Selman Bridges, the offensive lineman from Cove? Do you feel like there's a little nice chunk of higher-rated players than in recent years?
I definitely do, and kind of the craziest part of it is, Baylor is not really, it's not that they're not involved. It's just, when you look at the offer list that some of these guys have, I mean, Selman Bridges in the last month might be the recruit that has just risen the most in the entire country. I mean, he's getting offers from everybody, and Baylor was an early offer there. So they need to get him on campus because he was at TCU Junior Day instead of Baylor's. You mentioned Michael Uni over at Copper's Cove. He's another one who's got offers from everyone, and Kobe Black as well, who you mentioned already. So a lot of talent, like you said, in the Central Texas area, and a lot of talent that is getting offers, more so nationally. This isn't just a Texas, Baylor, Texas A&M type situation. This is a Alabama, Clemson, you got offer, Ohio State, like offers like that. So I think that really changes the dynamic. But you're exactly right. There's a lot of opportunities here for Baylor to potentially land a couple of prospects in the Central Texas area over the next few years, because I know we all look at the 2024 class because that's what's next. But there's also some good athletes in the 2025 class and 2026 class. They're still kind of making their way onto people's radars.
Grayson, have a great weekend. Grayson Grundhafer, Sikkim365.com, recruiting coordinator, analyst, Bearcast co-host with Craig, comes out every Tuesday with us here on 365 Sports. The 4 o'clock hour, we will dive into the chat room, the text line, and then also we've got a little time to discuss quite a bit of what we had earlier with the Big 12. Nothing, at least as far as imminent in any way, but could change with when will Texas and Oklahoma leave the conference? And it might actually be after the calendar year of 24-25. John McClain at 5, the Hall of Famer, the columnist on D'Amico Ryans, the new Texans head coach, and Christian Robinson, Baylor linebackers coach, will join us in the 5 o'clock hour before Paul's Top 5. This is 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, the place to go for locally crafted Texas-made bourbons, the place to go for craft beers. It's February now, which means those winter brews are probably, shuffling off the roster, and you'll start to see the springtime stuff come out on into the summer stuff. But right now, shuffling the roster. So you'll start to see that change ever so slowly as those stocks change. So the springtime brews are coming out. So make sure you get out there. If you're a craft beer fan, go and see what new stuff they have. There's always new stuff from different craft breweries all over the place. And coming into Riverbend Liquor and Wine, because they are committed to variety and excellence, and giving you the option to try something different, try something new all the time. It's not there's nothing basic or run-of-the-mill there. I mean, they have everything you need, but their goal is always to have the most variety, and their craft beer is second to none at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Great customer service, that speedy drive-through window, also available on DoorDash. And if you're wondering about the promotions, some of the exciting things going on, you can always follow them on Instagram and check out those updates when they post them about new things that they have coming into the store at any time. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, behind the bank.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
one-size-fits-all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
4 o'clock hour is pretty wide open with discussion, text, tweets. Text line 254-339-1122, the chat room. One note locally that's a college football note in a way, but Chad President used to be a dynamic quarterback at Temple High School, went to a couple of state championships there. He played at Tulsa. It did not work out for him there. He still played there. He was there. He then got into high school football at Heath High School in Rockwall. We saw them last year when they played Midway. Today, he is officially now moving from Heath in Rockwall to Midway, closer to home. He told me that earlier today, get back closer to his hometown, Temple, and he now becomes a part of the Shane Anderson coaching staff as the offensive coordinator because, well, Tommy Allison took the job at the newest school in Prosper. So there we go with Chad President. He was once committed to Baylor.
He was, and then Jarrett Stidham happened.
Yep.
That was what all happened. He was committed for a really long time, and then Art wanted Stidham, Stephenville connections, all that. Got him from Tech there at the very end, and Chad prior to, I guess Jarrett was committed for a little while, and they were going to make it work, but it just didn't feel like you could really probably make that work. And so, Chad eventually decommitted and signed with Tulsa. But, that's exciting. He's really risen in a short amount of time as far as coaching goes, or at least it feels that way. Maybe it's the natural progression, but I don't know. And maybe I'm just getting old. That's certainly part of it because he's probably been, coaching now for like 7 years at this point. But that'll be fun to see. And obviously they had a pretty great OC last year that's very well respected in Tommy Allison. So big shoes to fill. But, just in general, that program, not where it's been or where it wants to be these last, 2-3 seasons now at this point. So be a big, important, 2023 coming up for them.
Go ahead.
You mentioned Jarrett Stidham and how that affected everything. Think about all the energy that Texas Tech and Baylor fans spent on wanting that guy to be there. And Baylor got him for a little bit. But ultimately, Jarrett Stidham, only really helped him win a couple games.
He won a critical game. Was it Oklahoma State?
Yeah,
was that the
it
game?
was.
Yeah.
But then in the end, really nobody got to enjoy.
Yeah, wasn't worth all the fuss.
Yeah.
Let's say that.
Yeah.
It was not worth all the fuss.
And one of the things, that's why when Austin Novosad made the decision the night before, the morning of National Signing Day, I know that was bitter for, I'm sure, Sean Bell and the coaching staff and the fan base, but Baylor's done that with others. They flipped other quarterbacks, and one of them was Stidham. He was long time committed to Texas Tech. Some of the rumblings were he would eventually end up at Baylor, and that's why Baylor had Chad President committed. He's an incredibly young man and was a hell of a quarterback. But so it happens, everybody kind of gets that zinger. Terry Fox, when I was mentioning that maybe people had their hopes up on the Big 12 working something out that would allow Texas and Oklahoma to leave early. I am in no way, by the way, Terry, no way, appreciate your comment, suggesting that they were going to let them get out without any kind of blood, and they won't. What I was saying is I think if you were to poll everybody, now not everybody, not fans like you perhaps, I think everybody would love to see one more season played, make them pay, and everybody moves on. Texas and Oklahoma go do their thing. The Big 8, 12, 14, back to 12, do their thing. But, again, there's one difference is that Fox, ESPN also involved in this. But I'm just saying it appeared. I think everyone's ready to move on. If they can't, they can't. Okay, so, oh well. but they're not going to get away without writing a big fat check, no matter who you say, and not you, Terry. Anyone wants to quote any AD or anyone else.
Yeah, that's going to be, interesting to see how that goes. I don't know. Maybe I'm more sadistic. I'd kind of think it's hilarious to see them have to play another year after this one. And then, at least we'd know that year that, this is really the year now. This is not like, it's going to stretch out again. But I don't know. I don't think that there's anything wrong if they were to play another year. I know that they won't like it. Texas and Oklahoma definitely don't want to do that. I know a lot of the other Big 12 schools at this point don't want to have to do that either. And it'd be, best for everybody to go their separate ways. But if they did have to play another 2 seasons, that would be, I don't know, kind of darkly funny because of just all the stuff that's happened the last 2 years and all of the guarantees that have been thrown out there and all of the, you just wait till we're, that kind of stuff that's been going on, and now it's going to continue to go on and on for the foreseeable future. But, yeah, I mean, they're not leaving just scot-free, with the same amount of money in their pocket as when they started walking. That's not happening.
No,
nobody's that foolish, especially not Brett Yormark. He's gonna get some money, get something out of this.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. My top 5 is on the good and the bad of them staying another year if it doesn't in fact happen. But I do think that I would enjoy. And look, if I were Brett Yormark, I would have the most sarcastic media campaign about the final ride of Texas and OU and 14 teams and, the last chance you're going to get to see a conference do it like this, all those. I'm pumping those things up. I'm trying to create whatever curiosity in the league I can. And, whatever I have to do, if I have to do a Mariano Rivera, Chipper Jones farewell tour where, everybody gives out sarcastic gifts to them on the way out. I'm fine with that too.
Not that they wouldn't win the games because we don't know, but I think there would maybe in 2024, possibly there's a chance Texas and Oklahoma have to play back-to-back road trips in Provo, Morgantown, and Orlando.
No, see, what you do is you start in Morgantown, then you go to Provo, and then you go back to Orlando. Like that would be the.
Then you go to Lubbock, and then you go to Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And again, half of this in jest, but their schedule this year with that Texas schedule, a lot of Texas fans are like, "Damn, man, we don't leave the state after the game with Alabama until they play at Iowa State." So a lot of things to happen. Most of it is college football rivalries. Some of it is anger, frustration, bitterness, and, just tired of it all.
I mean, I'm sure they're tired of it all. I'm not really tired of hearing about it. I mean, so much at this point. I mean, I'm kind of getting over the whole they're talking, but the result is the exact same thing. Like, I know there's at least some updates today or some clarity. As long as there's some clarity, that's fine. But, yeah, I don't want to have to rehash, like, every month, like, they're still talking. They're still talking. They're still like I don't need that update. Just give me new news, and I'll be fine with that. But yeah, you don't want to see this drag on for like 2 more years, and it can't because 2 more years, and that's the end of the contract. But yeah, I don't. If they're gone after 23, fine. If they're sticking around and staying an extra year that was unexpected, that's fine too. Like I said, just the dark humor in me would find that kind of funny. That would drag out all the way to the end of the contract after all of the expectations that were out there, even as late as a summer ago. But either way, I'm fine with it. Like, it's not as though the Big 12 doesn't know, who the teams are going to be in their conference anymore, and it's not as though, Texas and Oklahoma don't have any clue of what they're walking into. I've already seen, hey, this gives Brent Venables another year to recruit and get the team ready for SEC play. And however you want to spin is fine. But, yeah, I think everybody would just like to know what the end is. It's not even so much, are they, won't they, will they, 2023, 2024. It's just, okay, when can we expect to watch this new product that we're all looking forward to? Like that's all I think everybody on both sides could agree on. Oklahoma and Texas fans and all the Big 12 fans would just like to know, okay, what year are we going to watch? And they'll be in the SEC, and we'll be moving forward without them. And that's all we're curious about.
All right. We, again, are on until 6. We'll have a busy 5 o'clock hour with Hall of Fame columnist John McClain. Also, Baylor linebackers coach Christian Robinson, who was at Auburn last year in Paul's Top 5. Here's a question that that TJ asked, and Paul, you responded to him. Craig, you give me your answer. I'll give mine as to Paul, and we go back and forth in the chat room. Can someone in this group define a rivalry? How many rivals does one team have? It seems to me somebody thinks every team in the Big 12 is a rivalry. No, I don't think so, although some don't look at anyone as a rivalry. And the term is way overused, which it might be. It depends on who you are. It depends on how old your institution is. It depends on what conferences you've been in or are now, what state you're in, what region you're in. For example, who's Clemson's rival?
Florida State and South Carolina. Those are their two big ones.
Okay.
I mean, but they're Florida State's biggest conference rival, even though Miami's in the conference, because since Miami's joined the conference, it's been more about Clemson and Florida State. But as far as Florida State's biggest rivals, it's Florida and Miami.
Right.
So I think I told TJ that you get 2. I'm going to amend that to say
3.
I'm going to say, I said, I'm going to amend that and say you get 3 max, where the third one, though, is not near as crucial as the other 2, and for varying reasons. But,
all right. Who are Texas's rivals? They have one.
It's Oklahoma. They're about to have their second one again in A&M, but that one went away for a while.
And, of course, they'll be, we don't look at them as, yes, you do.
But,
yeah, you do.
And then you have,
they are.
Then the other problem is you have.
Despite the explosive difference in the win-loss record.
A&M is a great example of this in that there were a lot of schools in the old SWC and Big 12 that thought A&M was that was their big rival. Like Baylor and Tech really thought A&M was that was the one that their fans. Well, A&M didn't reciprocate the feeling.
Well,
so to be a rival, I think it's got to be reciprocated.
A&M doesn't want to reciprocate, but then they get their britches all torn up if Texas looks at them as not a rival.
Yeah, well, I mean, Texas looks at them as the second biggest rival. I mean, I think that's true. I mean, they're in each other's domes.
But for Texas Tech and Baylor, it was. Whether A&M thought it was or not doesn't matter. If you think they're a rival, then that gets you stoked up. That's great.
It's funny that. What's the definition of a rivalry? The definition of the rivalry is the exact opposite of what you're trying to prove. The definition of rivalry is competition for the same objective or for superiority on the same field. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. So by that definition, all the Big 12 are rivals. All the SEC would be rivals. I mean, by the exact definition of it, but I know that's not the definition that we're going for. But yeah, what's the question? I don't know how.
Can someone in this group define a rivalry?
I just did exactly the way
can you have?
I mean, I don't think there's not rules for this. Like, I don't feel like we have to apply hard rules to everything to where it's no, you can't have more than 2. I think it just depends. I mean, some schools consider others rivals, as y'all have pointed out, that those aren't exactly reciprocated, but it doesn't change the fact that Baylor still considers A&M a rival. Doesn't change the fact that Baylor still considers Texas a rival. I know it's not reciprocated, but it doesn't change that fact. So it's in the eye of the beholder, like a lot of things.
Oklahoma has Texas, and they've had Oklahoma State, and for a long, long time, it was a team from Lincoln, right? Those are 3 legitimate rivals. Now, they dominated Oklahoma State. Texas has a better record against Oklahoma, I think, in the long run. Oklahoma had a better record against Nebraska, but when you look at those 3, one of them was regional, one of them was recruiting and also elite games with Texas OU, and one of them was probably who's going to win the Big 8 and play for the national championship for the longest of time. So there's reasons behind it. So, TJ, hopefully we gave you a pretty good answer on that.
TJ's a Texas fan, right? Is that TJ
now,
the
Paxton's
Texas?
the Texas fan.
No, I think TJ's a Texas.
Okay. That's a different TJ.
Okay, it's a different TJ. That's what I was trying to figure out. Okay. Well, if I was thinking if it was the Texas fan TJ, then I understand where the question's coming from because they look at it differently than if you were to ask a Baylor fan or a Texas Tech fan or a TCU fan or whoever. They're not going to look at, but yeah, like Oklahoma, and then here pretty soon A&M. And you'll get the old-timers, right, that throw Arkansas in there. And you get the new schoolers in there that are probably going to be predicting, like, LSU will be one, that kind of thing. But, yeah, I mean, that's from their point of view. If you go ask somebody from a different point of view who's sitting on a different level or, one's sitting on top of a mountain, the other's on, the bottom of a ravine, they're going to have different, vantage points the way that they're looking. And so, yeah, it's all depends on what school you're talking about. But there's not – like if somebody wants to claim like Texas Tech that Texas is a rival and Texas doesn't want to reciprocate that, well, that's not going to change either one's opinions. Texas Tech still going to consider Texas a rival whether they want to acknowledge it or not.
TJ, I'm a Baylor fan. He also
there's a TJ Texas fan. That's why I was
Texas
asking.
Tech and TCU and Houston fan now because he can pick whoever he wants.
Yeah. I think that Houston will have some automatic rivals built in with the Texas schools. I think one or two will probably separate more than the others. You know, you might have more of a rivalry with Texas Tech, but I think all those Texas schools are going to be rivals, and I think you could probably lump Oklahoma State either into that part of it or into more of the KU, Kansas State schools perhaps now.
I just think that you can't keep calling everybody that. It'd be like, you know, like calling everybody your best friend. Like at a certain point, like, you know, yes, you're a conference rival and you want to win that game and you don't care for each other, but if you if you ask, I think the acid test is, okay, if you lost to Kansas State for 5 years in a row, but you beat Texas 5 years in a row, would you trade that off? If your answer is yes, then Texas is your rival, right? And, you know, because that's what makes the rivalry.
And also, Texas is a rival for a lot of schools because they have dominated the hell out of them over the years, not as much recently. And so that can create that because you want to beat the team. From Coleman 901, Texas's rivals, Oklahoma, a lot of space then between 1 and 2. Then it's A&M, a lot more space. And then Arkansas, no more after that. And they have played Arkansas a little bit along the way. All right, thank you very much for a lot of your feedback on that.
Coleman also asked me what's the most underrated rivalry in the Big 12. That is a good question.
All right, listen. Texas Tech's biggest rival is Texas, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Baylor's biggest rival has become, because of recency and the fact that is TCU, although, yes, they want to beat Texas, OU, but is TCU.
Yeah, but that's not, like, super recent either at this point. I mean, like, the heat of that was 10 years ago, so that's not, like,
but I think it's carried over. I think they think that's a team they would rather – everyone would probably rather beat Texas, even though most people have been beating them of late. But you're right. That's the last, 10 or 12 years?
Well, I mean – in terms of the Big 12, really, in terms of like heated competition, but TCU Baylor goes back way longer. I think it's one of the more underrated. I don't think many people know how heated that really is because it's two smaller schools that are overshadowed by like 3 or 4 others at any given time within the same state borders.
Right.
And so it's not one you immediately think of, but I think that one's as hated as probably anyone that's out there, and certainly as heated at times, even though – you know, it takes 2 to tango, and Baylor can't win a football game to save their life against TCU. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter if it's hot, cold, home, away, you're good and they suck, they're great and you suck. It doesn't matter. Whatever the situation, Baylor's going to lose to TCU. So it's kind of turned into that, and that's, I think, cooled some of it. But, yeah, that's definitely a rivalry.
If TCU's favored, they're going to win that game. If Baylor's favored, TCU most likely is going to win that game. From Coleman, let's see. Let me see here.
But I think that one's kind of underrated, although I can understand why it's not really thought of outside of those two schools. And, again, they're two smaller schools as well. So it's not as out in your face like Oklahoma State versus somebody or whatever. But that's the one I think of. I think there's potential for a lot of new ones. But I don't know what another one would be like. Oak State, K-State? Like, I don't know what would be considered. I mean, I mentioned K-State, Kansas, obviously.
Yeah. I mentioned, but like as far as underrated or like one that's under the radar, I think Tech and Oklahoma has kind of gotten to be a fun one. Although, I mean, Oklahoma just has so many more of those games. I mean, I guess it's fun in that.
Maybe it is for Tech. I don't think for Oklahoma.
Although I will say this, and to credit to Tech fans, they are the one who has 12 best friends, right? They're the ones who's like, you know, Garrett's my best friend, and Craig's my best friend, and David's my best friend. Everybody's my best friend. And the opposite, because the way that they flood in and now like go into places. Look, the Farrell Center sold out tomorrow for Baylor and Texas Tech. Now, optimistically, people who wear green and gold think like, well, way to go, guys. Good job. But we know what Texas Tech does. We know what Arkansas did last week. Tech does it everywhere. So it's not just you. They go and flood the tickets.
To do with TCU.
Yeah, the whole thing about it. Tickets, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they show up and they go places. So they kind of make themselves everybody else's rival. And part of that might be because of the kind of brush off, which I thought was kind of silly from A&M, in that, A&M would go into Lubbock. The Tech fans were nuts about it. And A&M fans were like, well, you're not Texas. Yeah, but you're still not beating them as often as you should be, A&M. So, yeah, they're a rival now, and you need to at least match their
No one can tell
focus.
you who your rival is.
Yeah.
You can say, Patrick Cheney, if everyone is a rival, then no one is a rival.
Exactly.
The word loses its meaning.
Yeah.
All right. Good for you. Appreciate that as well. 4:23 is the time on 365 Sports. We're on until 6 o'clock today. All right, for a second, let's get into men's basketball this weekend. In the Big 12, Paul just mentioned Texas Tech is playing at Baylor. Tech got off a schneid with that incredible comeback to beat a top 25, at one point, top 10 Iowa State. Texas Tech with their first conference win. Does that give them a little oomph? An adrenaline rush? Do they all of a sudden feel like now this is who we are? We're going to find out tomorrow at noon at the Farrell Center.
I mean, I think that game's more dangerous. That'd be an awful game for Baylor to lose.
It would
That'd be an awful game for them to lose.
Especially if you've lost 2 games already at home.
Yeah, that would be an atrocious loss, no matter how good Tech might be playing. But, yeah, I mean, good for the Red Raiders that they're at least showing a pulse because they weren't. I mean, they were off to a horrific start, as we have well documented. And, I don't know, I haven't really checked in on the temperature surrounding the Mark Adams discussion and how they feel about him at the moment. But I know it wasn't great, a couple of weeks ago. But that's probably cooled off a little bit. And, certainly if they go beat Baylor, and that's 3 in a row, I mean, they're not going to go win the conference in the regular season, or anything like that. But you start to wonder, like, damn, what's going on if they, all of a sudden start reeling off a little bit of a win streak here.
Yep, I agree, because that was huge, because they could have been, would have been 0-9 and dead in the water. 1-8 doesn't mean they're not, but they still can scratch and claw and get themselves going.
I don't know when you'd rather play a team when they're 0-9 or 1-8. Like, do you want them to be relieved that they've got the win, or do you want them still? I mean, they're still painted in a corner. I don't think it changes that much. But and look, Baylor beat them handily the first time they played. It was
in
I
Lubbock.
say handily in Lubbock.
They dictated that game.
They kind of gnawed away at the end, but Baylor didn't really have to do much to keep in control late in the game. So.
All right. Also tomorrow, 8th-ranked Kansas with a very important win when they beat Kansas State earlier in the week. On the road at Ames. Iowa State all of a sudden is kind of, who are they? They're still really good, but they lost the SEC Challenge game. Okay, that happens. But that was a big surprise. And then, they blew the game against Texas Tech. They had a 23-point lead. I still think they're the team that had a 23-point lead.
Take those off your neck, please.
Yeah, I can't, because I cannot hear. They still think they're a team that had a 23-point lead and not the one. They sure hope they're not the team that blew the 23-point lead. That's tomorrow. TCU at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is feisty. TCU, top 20. 6-3 along with Iowa State, K-State, and Kansas right below Texas. And speaking of UT, they're on the road against Kansas State, starting to show a little slippage, right? After the loss, they're 6-3 in the conference, but having still a really good year that not many people expected, unless it was Jerome Tang.
I don't even I'm sure he expected to be better. I don't know if he expected to be this good until they really got going.
Well, there's a lot. Here they are all of a sudden. They were 6-1. Now they're 6-3. They did win their SEC Challenge game, but
their 3 wins. Their 3 losses are a top 25 team.
Well, so that's in this conference. Most of the time, if you look at your 3 losses, they are the top 25 teams.
So yeah, I understand that, and my point is that this is not really a whole lot of shame in that. I mean, if you're losing, I'd rather it be to a top 25 team than to a non-top 25 team. So yeah, they've got 3 whole losses in early February. Give me a couple more before I start to worry in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, it's not quite what it was when they were flying sky high and seemed pretty much unbeatable, and then go beat Kansas, and they're he's sitting there celebrating on top of the table, telling them what the expectations are. Since then, it's kind of cooled off a little bit, but again, it's to some pretty good teams, although that TCU game was a little bit more of a margin than probably expected it to be, losing by double digits. But yeah.
They're 6-3, and if you're Jerome Tang in this league, that's what makes it so hard. Mm-hmm. You burp, you blink, you cough, you're in a 3-game losing streak. Baylor understands that because that's where they were.
11-7 is going to probably win the league, based on a lot of the metrics right now. So you being at 3 losses right now, you're well within the pace to still win it. If you even have 4, even 5 right now, you're still good to go. You just got to play the hot streak the right way. And, it's such a tough league that, you can have those 2 losses in a row. You can, you're not going to quite often beat somebody twice, especially of the, group of Baylor, TCU, Kansas State, Iowa State, and Texas. Those teams you're not going to probably go 2-0 against. There's going to be somebody in there who goes 2-0 against the other one. Like, that's just how it's going to happen. But look, already Kansas and Kansas State have split, right?
Yes.
So,
and Texas lost at home. Remember to Kansas State when they came into Texas, beat them, beat Baylor. The only teams that have won twice against anybody in the conference. Texas has beaten Oklahoma State twice, and Oklahoma State's beaten Oklahoma twice. And that is it.
Yeah, so, look.
And a lot of it's because no one's played twice.
Well, yeah, but also, okay, Baylor lost to Iowa State at home. Iowa State's got to come in, or Iowa State in Ames. Iowa State's got to come into Waco.
Yep.
More than likely, Baylor's probably going to win that game just based on how the home court advantage goes in the league. So all those things are factors. So, yeah, I don't think anybody should be sweating anything yet, especially in those top 6 schools. You're in it. Now, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, and Texas Tech. Texas Tech especially has got to pull off some sort of miracle to get in the postseason. Same with West Virginia. The Oklahoma schools need to get better, but they still have a shot if they can play above where they've been for most of the year. But again, uphill ride.
We got a break. It's 4:30 coming up again. Your thoughts about the Big 12? Who's hot? Texas is. Kansas is warming up. Kansas. They had the wobble, but again, it was at Baylor, who's a hell of a team. But that win against Kansas State, does that kind of send them on one of these 3 to 5 game winning streaks they're capable of? TCU, up and down. Iowa State seems to be in need of a win, but who's not? Baylor is, because they're 5-4 after the loss in Austin on Monday. All right, this is 365 Sports. Want some options? Come pick up from the best selection in Central Texas at Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Waco's President's Day sales event going on at the Waco location. Get a 2022 Ram 1500 quad cab with 0% financing for 72 months. 0% financing for 72 months. Or the Ram 1500 crew cab with 1.9% financing for 72 months on most trim levels, Lone Stars, Laramies, top of the line, Longhorn and Longhorn Limited, or get a Ram 1500 Lone Star crew cab with values up to $8,250 plus $500 for first responders. Jeep also has the President's Day sales event going on as well. For example, the Grand Cherokee Laredo with total values of $2,000 and 1.9% financing for 72 months on second and third row options. Allen Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
What are you waiting for? Next year's New Year's resolution to lose weight, get fit, start working out? 3, 2, 1, go to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness. If you really want to get in shape, get rid of weight or inches, you have to make a commitment to work out. End the excuses of not enough time, you're too tired or too busy. There's a special place that will change your life at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco. And they have a commitment to you too. With personal trainers Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Bosch. State-of-the-art Cybex equipment, new weights and spin bikes, clean and spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Todd Grantham. We mentioned Tommy Rees, Notre Dame, to Alabama to work with Nick Saban as their offensive coordinator. Todd Grantham, who's been part of the Alabama staff, interviewed for the defensive coordinator's job, has decided to get back in the National Football League as an assistant with the New Orleans Saints. He was an analyst at Bama, part of that rotating analyst, get your career back on track with Nick Saban. Worked in the NFL. That's where I remember him the most 11 years with 3 different, also was a defensive coordinator for 3 different SEC schools.
Yeah, I this can surprise me a little bit. I thought he was going to be kind of the odds-on favorite, but Nick Saban went young with Tommy Rees, and someone who everybody but a good section of Notre Dame fans feels like is an up-and-coming coach in college football. But maybe he goes young with defensive coordinator. I think that he talked to Jeremy Pruitt, but not knowing what any kind of NCAA penalties will be for him. I think that it's probably not going to work out going forward with him, at least right now in an on-field role. Maybe they bring him back in that little analyst program, but curious to see where they go at DC now that Todd Grantham is going back to the NFL.
Yeah, I don't think this is one that Alabama fans are losing a ton of sleep over. I think that they are rejoicing, if anything else. I'm not so sure on the Todd Rees part of it because I think that's a little bit more of a question mark. That's not a big name per se that maybe you were not that Alabama reported this, but when this started, it was Cliff Kingsbury, and it was, names like that. It was not Tommy Rees. And I don't know about you guys. I was very impressed by Marcus Freeman and how Notre Dame responded to their start, but it was not because of their offensive prowess. Yeah. That's why I think you're kind of like, oh, okay, we'll see how this goes. But it's not like the most exciting hire in the world, but, we'll see as far as Tommy Rees goes. As far as Todd Grantham, I don't think that that's one that probably most Alabama fans are losing sleep over. When I saw his name mentioned earlier in the week, there was a lot of talk about how just that wasn't a great fit. That wasn't a good probably a piece of the puzzle for what they're trying to do. So, yeah, good for him to have, other opportunities. And if I'm, some coach out there right now, I think it'd be really hard if you had offers from every league and Todd Grantham could coach wherever he, whatever level he wanted to. I think the NFL would be awfully appealing versus the others, quite honestly. The money's as good, if not better. And I think, yes, the need to win is great at all levels, but just the lack of having to recruit, the lack of having to deal with NIL and things like that, just that would be more up my alley. Others would disagree. Others are more suited towards the college game. So I don't know where Todd Grantham falls into that as far as his desires go, but yeah, I think this is best for all parties involved.
Yeah, if you're a guy who's Todd Grantham at this point in his career too, and college football has changed completely, if you're going to have to deal with paying people and all that, and you can easily get an NFL job, just go work in the NFL.
Yeah.
Just go work
exactly.
for guys. Then, because the best part about the NFL is coaches don't ever have to worry about, like, the contract is all done in the front office, all that stuff. You never have to walk in and tell a guy, like, okay, we'd like to have you, here on the New Orleans Saints. All right, great. You need to get me in touch with people in New Orleans who can get me this amount of money. No. Our general manager will call you, we'll call your agent, and you guys will work all that stuff out. And if you're there, you're there. If you're not, then there'll be another guy. That's just how it works in the NFL. So if you're at that point in your career, if you're Todd Grantham, and if you look at a picture of Todd Grantham, dude's grizzled as hell. I mean, he's the old grizzled football coach.
Yeah.
The last thing I think a guy like that wants to do is walk into a place and the kid say, like, can you get me $150,000? You're like, I'd rather just go deal with millionaires.
And like I said, I don't know what his preferences are. I'm just saying, if I was him and hey, you can go here and you can assemble a team through the draft, and there's no wonky stuff as far as, like, having to make official visits. And, like, you can just, show up to the Senior Bowl. Show up to the workout at your facility. Show up to the combine. And, then let the people in the offices figure out the contractual terms that actually have parameters in play. Yes, I would much rather deal with that than deal with being one of 100 guys, crammed onto a sideline at, like a 4A in Texas. But to each their own. So whatever Todd Grantham was looking to do, he's going to have options, and he's just not going to be the Alabama option at this time. But, I'm curious now where they go. I mean, I'm curious where that ultimately leads them.
Well, Dennis Polian is now on staff at Baylor. Every school now has basically what is almost a general manager for personnel decisions and also more. And it's getting to be that way. Obviously, some schools have what seem to be 20, 25 analysts, or some might have 4. I don't know. A lot of it depends on what you want, how much you can afford. But college football coaches are getting, or staffs are getting as much into the personnel decisions or pieces like, for example, Polian at Baylor. That's kind of what he is kind of become their general manager.
Yeah, I don't think we even need to really talk about it like it's all that new now at this point. Yep. I think it's just a part of the deal. I think it is what it is.
It's new, though, as far as the timeline of when we started seeing that type of position in football. It used to be like operations director, staff guy, whatever.
Right, I understand that. I'm saying, like, at this point now, though, it's not really like we need to stop talking about it as though it's really that new thing, because it's the thing now. Mm-hmm. It's normal. It's going to be on every staff for the most part, if not all of them. So, yeah, I get what you're saying. It's still relatively, but now it's just normal is what it is. And so, again, if you're everybody's different. Everybody likes doing different things, and for Dennis Polian or people like him, that's exactly the role that they would like, and that's what they thrive in. I'm just saying, if you're a top-tier defensive coordinator and you've got your options of pro or college or whatever, me personally, I would rather go to the NFL and do that and not have to worry about so much of the other headaches that come exclusively with college football. And as I said, I don't know what Todd Grantham feels like, But good for him to have had the options that he had and to be able to, either not get that Bama job or not want that Bama job, and to be able to go like, I'm going to go to the NFL. Like that's a great end result for him, however it unfolded in Tuscaloosa and their desires there. But yeah, like, do they go Jeremy Pruitt? I don't know. That seems like the next logical step, but I haven't been, on Bama Online or wherever, so I don't know what the buzz is. But this was one of those buzzed about names, and it won't be him. So we'll see what they do next.
Mentioning Dennis Polian and the general manager thing, I keep going back to what Brett McMurphy said at the end about how college football doesn't have to tell you anything. And they have all this. I wonder how that would change. Things like that. I think people freak out about coordinators leaving a little bit too much. Sometimes they need to make changes. You can tell that. But ultimately, most of the people you hire are going to, work. Are better than anybody else you could, or available to you. So sometimes you make bad hires and sometimes you don't. But people freak out about guys. Oh, we're losing this offensive coordinator. All right, well, did he want to do that his whole life? Did he want to be the same place? But I would like to know, those I would like to know when coaches are going to speak at these times. But now they just kind of set their own rules and move on. It's strange.
Tomorrow at D1 Sports, and I better not say that. I was going to say there's a couple of Baylor football players are going to be at D1 Sports tomorrow, and I don't know if it's a public deal or not. I thought it was something that is so I'm not going to say what I'm going to say. Now, we saw the story earlier. Craig brought it up about Josh Sills, who's a part of the Eagles, and he's not going to be at the Super Bowl. Imagine if this week Cincinnati was playing if they had beaten Kansas City. And Joe Mixon has been in the news. It's been a while because of what happened when he punched a woman at a restaurant in Norman, and it became a big, big deal. And I'm not so sure if that part of that story in itself was not one of the things that just wore down Bob Stoops or whatever. Has an arrest warrant issued for him on an aggravated menacing that occurred back on January 21st, allegedly pointed a gun at a woman and said, "You should be popped in the face. I should shoot you now. The police can't get me." That's per.
Oh, well, that was wrong, I guess.
Apparently they can.
Yeah. Now,
try again.
His agent, this is the quote I want to get into, because Joe Mixon seems to have straightened his life out, and most people try to do that. Not everyone can. It was rushed to judgment. Again, he's defending his client. They're dropping the charge first thing in the morning. I really feel that police have an obligation before they file charges because of the damage that can be done to a person's reputation. To do their work, they should be held at a higher standard because I don't play with people's lives. Well, Joe Mixon's, unfortunately, reputation, part of that's always going to be that cloud of what happened at the restaurant, no matter what he's done since then.
Pickleman's. Pickleman's, I believe, is what the restaurant was.
And I don't know the story. I know I saw there's an arrest warrant out.
It was already dismissed.
Yep.
He was right.
Just
the lawyer
like that.
Was right.
So how do you handle this?
I don't know. I mean, they're the lawyer is scratching the surface of a larger conversation of police training in this country, which we don't need to get into because we don't have the expertise. But I do think that he's not wrong that, if the charges are going to be dropped or if that's going to happen, then
they have been dismissed.
They've been dismissed. Then now there's much to do about nothing because we'll never know how true any of this was or what the actual story is, because now it's going to be in the kind of ether forever of, what really happened here that triggered this. Now, the thing I've always felt about Joe Mixon, since that incident at Pickleman's, when Bob Stoops came back and said it, had this been he got in kind of under the deadline of where he could redshirt a guy and hide him for a year. And Bob Stoops even admitted it. He's like, look, things have changed here recently where I probably would not have been able to do that with Joe Mixon. And he said maybe even I shouldn't have. But he did, and Joe Mixon's been a very productive and a very good NFL player. He had a great season this year, but this is something he's probably just going to follow him around, just like the other thing will and should for a while.
Yeah, I mean, the story that you're reading from is from yesterday. They got dismissed like 3 hours ago, and so they've already kind of found a resolution. But the thing is that she could still refile, later on. And so it's not quite done, but, as terms of how it looked yesterday when it first came out, like, oh, my God, it's Joe Mixon back at it again. He's never going to shake that reputation. And you know what? He probably doesn't deserve to, and especially not if he's actually going around and menacing, because charges being dropped doesn't mean he's innocent. And, charges being filed doesn't mean he's guilty. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what he is. I know that I saw that video from years and years ago, and I do believe that people could change. I also know I've never been in the mindset to do what he did that night. Drunk, doesn't matter. Never gotten even close to that. So, I don't know what to believe, and it's not my place to be judge, jury, executioner on that. But, yeah, unfortunately for him, and because of what happened in Norman years ago, if there's something involving a female and violence, he's going to be presumed guilty by a lot of people. That's just what that's part of the sentence that he received for that incident all those years ago. That's not one that's handed out by a judge or one that's on documents. That's society saying this is your forever punishment for that night, is that we're probably, most of us, going to believe that, yeah, you did this or did that when it's brought up. But look, if he's innocent and those charges got dropped and there's really nothing to it, then we'll probably not hear much more about it. If she wants to pursue it further, then I'm sure we'll hear a bit more scuttlebutt about it. To what degree of seriousness, who knows? But, yeah, to your original question, I don't know what they would have done. The NFL is not exactly the most trustworthy. As much as they want to puff their chest out and act like the Shields, like Captain America and all that, we know that's all BS, especially their history with violence against women. And so I don't know what the Bengals would have done in that situation. I mean, you suspend him for a week. That takes you to the open weekend, but that wouldn't have really, I don't know. Unfortunately for them, they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, with the charges being dismissed so quickly, and even with the quote from the attorney yesterday saying they were going to be, where we need additional investigation before we would move forward with this case. When I first read that, what the attorney was saying they're going to be dropped tomorrow, they rushed. I actually thought, wait a minute, was the woman who had the gun allegedly pointed in her face, did they get to her? It's kind of like the Chris Beard thing, right? With his significant other.
But we don't know.
We don't know.
But we don't know.
But would he play next week?
Well, the Bengals don't have the best history of this either.
No.
As a team, and that owner. The owner's still the same. Mike Brown is still the same guy. So,
but the charges dropped. I know that doesn't mean he's.
Well,
would he play next week?
If the charges were dropped, of course, and he should be able to play.
And then he could still suspend him if they got more information. Like
if the charges were still pending or the charges were there, and you're in Phoenix and Joe Mixon would be getting ready to go to the Super Bowl, I think that's something the Bengals in the NFL would have to deal with.
And can you imagine media day and all I guess the media access you have, which is throughout the week until I think whenever they arrive all the way, every day players are available. And then, of course, on Friday they shut it down, and I think it's just the coaches that are on Friday.
It's just a big old what if.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter. Like, they're not in that game. There's not going to be media days. The charges already got dropped. So all that's just a bunch of what if, and I understand where you're coming from. But, yeah, fortunately for the Bengals, like I said, they don't have to worry about that. That's not an actual issue they have to deal with. But, I'm sure that they're radars are up for Joe Mixon now, if they ever went down in the first place. And you know what? He has, seemingly kept his nose clean and, gone on to have a really nice career. I don't think his football ability was ever in question. It was always just that one night in Norman and whatever else maybe we don't know about, or maybe that was all there was ever to that. But, fortunately for them, they don't have to find out. And I actually do mean this, that whatever the truth is in this situation, I hope that gets found out and gets dealt with accordingly, and there's not, pro football player gets away with it or false accuser gets away with it.
Right.
There needs to be repercussions for whichever side's guilty in this situation.
One quick note, I just saw this. Alex Scarborough, ESPN, South Carolina Gamecocks suspend 3 freshman football players on charges of carrying weapons on school property and obstructing justice.
Stupid.
Let's see. Montague Rames II, suspended by Shane Beamer, the head coach, along with fellow freshmen Anthony Rose and Cameron Upshaw. No reasons given for the suspension, but online records showing that Rames, an 18-year-old defensive end, was booked on Thursday night in Columbia on 2 charges. I mean, and even Beamer said our student athletes know what is expected of them. So that's that story. And again,
crime blotter segment.
Yeah. Well, it's something that came up just here very recently. Sports tonight at 10:30. Thanks to Emery Winter, he will take what we've discussed, our interviews and segments as well, and turn it around into what is amazing at 10:30 every night on the CW. We appreciate Josh Young and the overall umbrella of KWTX and what they do to include us at 10:30 every night, Monday through Friday at least, weeknight at 10:30 on the CW. Now, we will hear in the next hour from John McClain. In fact, let's break here. We'll get him on a couple minutes early if we can. And then after that, Christian Robinson, Baylor's new inside or linebackers coach, will join us a little bit after 5:20. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people you can count on right now. Check out the Texas size selection over at Richard Carr. Over 150 vehicles on the lot and ready to drive home today. That includes dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot. Right now, qualified buyers can get special financing on 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. Qualified buyers can also get special financing on GMC Terrain SUVs or the entire lineup of Buick SUVs in stock as well. And if you're not looking to buy new, well, they've got 80 quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, many of them under $20,000. They're affordable. They're thoroughly inspected. They're ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Richard Carr has quality vehicles ready to drive today, and perhaps you're not looking for any quality vehicles. You've already got one, and you're just trying to make sure that it maintains its quality. You want to drive your car or truck, SUV, for a while longer. Well, their award-winning service department over at Richard Carr is standing by to keep you on the road. Go to the website, richardcarr.com. That's KARR.com, to see service specials and to set an appointment for quick and reliable service. Been in business for 23 years in the Central Texas area, and in those 2 decades plus, they built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now. Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed. Smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long-distance meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Been a busy week in the NFL. It's the off week. The week that Kansas City and, of course, Eagles get a chance to tune things up, make sure all the families are taken care of, tickets and all of the itinerary. And then they all head to Phoenix, the teams eventually. But it's also been a busy week in Houston because they have a new head coach in D'Amico Ryans, and we're joined by Hall of Fame columnist, GallerySports.com, and also part of 610 in Houston and many other stations around the country in John McClain. John, I feel like, and I could be wrong, but let me know, was D'Amico Ryans really the only best choice they had?
If you listen to the fan base and the media, but they interviewed 8 people. They interviewed 2 or 3 a second time. But once he had his Zoom interview, which lasted 4 hours before they played on the Friday before the 49ers played the Cowboys, that blew everybody away. Both sides told me it went great. And I think when he came here for his in-person interview, the McNair family knew they weren't going to let him get away. General Manager Nick Caserio wanted him. If he didn't, D'Amico wouldn't be here because the McNairs weren't going to make him do it. But Gary Kubiak united the fan base in 2006 when he came from Denver, where he'd been offensive coordinator, won 2 Super Bowls. D'Amico's united the fan base. And one reason is because the franchise has been in such turmoil, not just losing the last 3 seasons, but going Jack Easterby, Bill O'Brien's controversial trades, Deshaun Watson, David Culley, one and done, Lovie Smith, one and done, just such turmoil. And D'Amico's always one of the best and most popular players in franchise history. He's NFL Assistant Coach of the Year this year. And he wanted to be here, and they wanted him. And that's one reason. It's one reason that he's so endeared himself so much to the people here is he could have gone to Denver. He could have maybe gone to Carolina, Colts, and Cardinals. They all wanted him, and he only interviewed with the Broncos because that was the day before he interviewed with the Texans.
John, do you expect we know what the defense is going to look like. It's going to look like D'Amico Ryans' defense. That's what he's going to want. Do you expect the offense to be a Shanahan wide zone kind of thing, or do you think he'll go in a different direction?
I believe this. That system was started by Mike Shanahan, handed down to Gary Kubiak, handed down to Kyle Shanahan, as well as some others. And a lot of coaches put their own little nuances on it. And I think Ryans wants a coach that has that experience. Bobby Slowick on the 49ers staff as a passing game coordinator. He and D'Amico and Kyle Shanahan got the 49ers senior year 2017, and Bobby Slowick had been with Kyle Shanahan 3 years in Washington. He seems like a natural. Doesn't mean they're going to hire him. Another one I like is Clint Kubiak, the Broncos quarterback coach, who's been with Minnesota, and he runs a similar system that he learned from his father. And so I think it's important to have what you know. And you need got to get a quarterback that's going to fit that. And you don't have to have a great arm to run the system. You need a good arm, Bryce Young's got a good arm.
John, what are any potential pitfalls here? I mean, it's always when there's a new guy, especially one that's so beloved, it's like, oh, it's the greatest thing ever, and I understand why, but what are potential concerns with D'Amico Ryans?
He's only been a coach for 6 years. He played for 10 years. He was the captain and NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. He made all first team, all Pro Bowl, finished his career with the Eagles. And then Shanahan hired him a year later, and he doesn't have a lot of experience coaching. I think it's important that he gets a former head coach on his staff in some capacity. I wish it would be Gary Kubiak. And or somebody else. To me, you should have one on each side of the ball who's been through the ringer. And you never know. And if they blow the quarterback, if I don't know that the honeymoon could be over. Let's say he said, "Okay, I want to stick with Davis Mills," or "I want to sign Jimmy Garoppolo." When all the fans and media want him to get the franchise quarterback with the second pick, even if they have to swap spots with the Bears to get the first overall pick. And the expectations are not going to be high. I think it would have to be, oh my goodness, I think it would have to be a huge setback if they didn't win more games than they did last year. But I thought they were going to win more with Lovie Smith.
Yeah, you think Lovie will coach again?
No, I don't. I think that he could be an assistant coach somewhere. He's got a lot of contacts, and Lovie's not old. You know, he's only like 64, so he's a coach. That's what he wants to do right now. He's playing a lot of golf.
John, what did you think about the Cowboys moving on from Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy calling plays, and Kellen Moore subsequently getting hired very fast by the Chargers?
Kellen Moore gets to go work with Justin Herbert, a lot of skill position players, and improving offensive line. You know, nobody's sold yet on Brandon Staley as a head coach, but still, it's a good spot for him to go. And if he does well, maybe he'll be the next head coach. So I think it was a great move for Kellen Moore. When Mike McCarthy, remember his first news conference, I'll be calling plays. 2 days later, Kellen Moore will be calling plays because Jerry laid the law down. And I don't think what happened to the Cowboys is Kellen Moore's plays fault. But you know how it is when you lose. I've never seen teams get rid of coordinators as much as these losing teams have.
Some guy named Brady retired this week, John.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that guy?
I think he's got a chance to get in the Hall of Fame. I think he's got a chance to first thing I thought about is our Hall of Fame meeting to determine who gets in 2028 will be shorter because Tom Brady will not take any kind – just the rep will go, ladies and gentlemen, Tom Brady, and sit down and like, ooh, that's 20 minutes we don't have to waste. And, of course, he'll be unanimous first ballot. How many people retire and then they get a raise of about $17.5 million a year, which he's going to get going to Fox next year for $37.5 million.
Yeah. You know, hey, speaking of broadcasting, Tony Romo, there was a story from Andrew Marchand about Tony Romo had the CBS.
Intervention.
Yeah, like intervention was the word, which is kind of a little bit harsh, but do you get the impression that it's fading for him or what?
I don't know. I haven't noticed that. Maybe others have. And I just don't know. I haven't noticed it, but I don't watch those guys much.
John McClain, again, GallerySports.com, Sports Talk Radio 610 in Houston with us on Tuesdays, but the last couple of 2 or 3 weeks we've had him in on Friday because of his duties. Many things he does.
John, do you think that the Brady domino is obviously the first one to fall? How do you think that sets off the Packers, Raiders, anybody else in the quarterback market as they start to shuffle around?
I think there's going to be a lot of movement of veteran quarterbacks, and most people that are interested in veterans think that they're the answer to helping them get to the playoffs. And I can't wait. You know, Aaron Rodgers is such drama queen. who's going to pay him almost $60 million at 39 years old? He'd been to one Super Bowl. It was 12 years ago. He's kind of a nut job. And I think he should stay right there in Green Bay. They've done everything they can to help him with young receivers. And but I think that one's going to drag out. Let me tell you guys where I was this past weekend, because the 12-year-old me growing up in Waco, playing Little League Baseball up at Lake Air for the Shell Oil, making the Northwestern All-Stars. I loved baseball back then. I love football too. But I was in Palm City, Florida at the Floridian National Golf Club, which is owned by Astros owner Jim Crane. He turned it over to Reggie Jackson for his annual Mr. October Celebrity Golf Tournament and fundraiser. There were 40 Hall of Famers there from football and baseball. And Gallery Sports, Mattress Mac, sponsored the celebrity dinner the night before, and we were on the media outlet. So we were set up on the veranda, and everybody I saw walk by, I grabbed them, and because they don't know what Gallery Sports is, but they just saw the big sign. They sponsored the dinner, and I got 19 interviews over 2 days. And one of them was Reggie Jackson, who doesn't do a lot of interviews. And one of the things I asked Reggie, and I was in awe. I don't think I act like it. I tried not to. And I asked him, I said, I've never seen you say this. Which home run that you hit the hardest? The 71 All-Star game at Tiger Stadium. That was when I was a senior at Richfield. Or the 77 World Series halfway up the tarp in dead center of Yankee Stadium when I was in my second year at the Chronicle. And he hesitated. He said, the one at Tiger Stadium. So they hit the lights. Anybody wondering about it should go Google it and see, because everybody said it was the longest home run they'd ever seen. It would have come down in Canada if it hadn't hit the lights. And when I watch it, I think there was so many future Hall of Famers in that game. And there'll never be another All-Star game with that many Hall of Famers. But I was like a kid in a candy store.
That's
because
awesome.
Who would have dreamed growing up in Waco, Texas, I'd be in a situation like that? I am blessed.
That's awesome. Speaking of Hall of Fame, and we brought that up because of what you did as well with what you have next week, obviously, there's going to be another class release. Give us a little idea. I know you can't discuss too much of it, but do you feel pretty good about where things are trending?
I'm interested in Andre Johnson because I presented him, and 3 receivers, him and Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt, made the cut from 15 to 10. I just wish one of them would get in, so we may put the other 2 in the next 2 years because it's a logjam right now. But the one really close to my heart is Chuck Howley, the former Cowboys linebacker, who's 86, has Alzheimer's really bad. And I presented him to the seniors committee, and he got that nomination. I presented Howley to the big committee, and we find out, I'm sure he's going to get in because the big committee rubber stamps what the senior and coach committees recommend. So he waited 46 years. He doesn't know what planet he's on, but his son, Scott, said he never gave up on the Hall of Fame. And so it would mean so much to that family if their daddy, who has Alzheimer's, severe case of Alzheimer's, lives next door to Staubach, if his dad gets in. If he does, I'll be writing a huge story on gallerysports.com, and I'll have a bunch of videos of Chuck Howley.
All right, I got to ask you a question. How long have you been on that committee? How many years now?
30, I think.
How many times has someone stood up to represent somebody to nominate or discuss the Hall of Fame, and they've just said, like, basically a name?
That first one was Dan Marino, and then Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre. That's the way it'll be, and Tom Brady. And like Lawrence Taylor, one of the 2 greatest defensive players, and Reggie White, we talked about him. I don't know why. Taylor, we had to get the bylaws read to us and so everybody know it didn't matter what he did off the field. And Jerry Rice, for some reason, there's a little discussion. But, man, those all-time great quarterbacks, I love it. They just say, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Catalina, and then they sit down.
Well,
There we
I
go.
mean,
That's all it should take.
That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be.
Wait a minute.
I'm
We're
glad.
going to discuss that.
No. John, we've got one of our listeners on the chat room posted that he's from Dallas. He's never been to Houston. He's going down there in a few weeks for a wedding. If he's got a couple places that he has time to eat at, where would you recommend he go? He's never been to Houston before.
Well, first of all, there's only a million.
Yeah.
Give him my number, my cell, and tell him to text me.
Wow.
And tell me he's the one that called you guys, and I'll set up a conversation, find out what part of town he's going to be in, and I'll recommend the good ones, just like I do to all my friends that come to Waco, and I tell them to go to George's, and I tell them to go to Cups Drive-In. Those are my two favorite places.
I don't remember what it was a Super Bowl in Houston. It might have been the Janet Jackson Super Bowl, but Earl Campbell took us into a restaurant with his family and others, and I don't remember what it was. It was like a steakhouse and seafood restaurant. He walked in, and there was this table for like 16 for him. It was. I'm going to have to ask him what.
John, it's the place that's got like all the caricatures, and I think it's actually moved locations to like a hotel now.
Well, I don't know. We only got 5,000 steak places. But wherever Earl goes, I still don't think he picks up any tabs. When he used to play here, he and the lineman would go after a game to Sunny Looks Restaurant, which is down from the Astrodome.
That might
and
be
a fan in there every time would pick up the tab, no matter how much it cost, how much those linemen ate, because they love Earl and they love your Blue Oilers.
But go ahead.
I think it was the Palm.
The Palm. That's what it was, the Palm. John, you spoke about the All-Star game and all the Hall of Fame names and what you were doing at the event. I was fortunate to go to the 1971 Major League Baseball All-Star game at D.C. Stadium in Washington. I knew this was true. They had the following Hall of Famers in that game: Johnny Bench, Willie McCovey, Joe Torre, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Willie Stargell, Steve Carlton, Ferguson Jenkins, Juan Marichal, Tom Seaver, and Sparky Anderson, Walter Alston, Tony Oliva, Louis Aparicio, Rod Carew, Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, and Carl Yastrzemski. Jim Palmer, all of them were a part of that game, and I was there when I was just a child. It was amazing, that memory.
Are you sure that was 71? Because I thought the Tigers Stadium was 71. And either way.
70, you might be right. 70, I thought it was 1972 then, maybe.
No, it was 72. 71 was the Tiger Stadium. So you had all those guys.
13 Hall of Famers in
All-Star
Washington.
games.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and they're all playing the year before, too. I would suggest anybody look up Reggie Jackson's All-Star game home run in 71, and I just wish we had slow motion, which they didn't, to watch the majestic, the way it just went into the sky and disappeared, and all of a sudden, boom, the lights started coming out, kind of like in the movie The Natural.
John, you would have just done, like, Dave Campbell is very proud of you right now to go. 71 was in Detroit, 72 was in. That was some Dave Campbell stuff right there.
Yeah, that was. And I'm pretty good about those years, too. Yeah, it was actually it was 1969 at D.C. Stadium when they had the big rain delay, and that was the All-Star game I attended.
The only reason I remembered that is just because I interviewed Reggie, and I'll never forget. There were about 5 of us sitting around at a guy's apartment and watching that All-Star game. And when he hit that home run, we were like jumping up and down, mesmerized that he'd able to do that. And if people will look on gallerysports.com, you'll see all the videos I did. And the one I did with Reggie, you look at him, he's so small. He's thin, and he's about 5'9", and I always thought Reggie Jackson was 6'2" and 230 because he was wide. But one of the reasons he's in such good shape and plays so much golf is he's made sure to keep his weight and his health. They're doing really, really well.
John, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Sick on the sellout crowd. I can't wait.
Yep, John McClain, GallerySports.com, Sports Talk Radio 610 in Houston with us on Tuesdays. The last 3 weeks it's been on Fridays, and he told us one of the reasons why. When we come back, Christian Robinson, linebackers coach at Baylor. He was at Auburn. He joins us next on 365 Sports. I'm not sure what you're putting on the grill this weekend, what you're going to have for dinner. In fact, they're open until 6 o'clock at 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco Custom Marketplace, a butcher shop that will custom cut however thick you want a bacon-wrapped filet, and of course they have bone-in and also regular boneless ribeyes. If you want something like that, if you want just a couple of pounds of hamburger, you want bacon, you want Norwegian salmon, you want shrimp that's as you want, certain sizes, they can do that. Full-service butcher shop, full-service bakery. Not too late to go by there right now or at some point between now and 6, and they're open tomorrow. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
The President's Day sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the great selection of new cars, trucks, and SUVs and get amazing deals on new Ram trucks, Jeep SUVs, Chrysler sedans, and minivans, or a sporty Dodge. Get more for less, guaranteed. More value, more selection, more service, and more trade-in allowance. And of course, if we don't have exactly what you want in stock, we can help you build the custom car, truck, SUV, or van of your dreams and order it today. It's the President's Day sales event happening right now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You're right. That was a Dave Campbell moment. 1971 All-Star game, which was in Detroit, had 22 Hall of Famers in that game. 22. The one I went to, I think, had like 13 to 15, and a lot of them, of course, that also played in 1971.
So I can clarify for our non-Texas viewers and listeners. Dave Campbell, a lot of Texas people know him. Everybody who likes football in the state of Texas knows Dave Campbell. He was a sports writer, a columnist here from Waco, the Waco Trib, who founded Dave Campbell's Texas Football, which is a huge magazine publication that comes out every year. And Mr. Dave was one of the sweetest, most unbelievable human beings you ever met in your life. He taught everybody from this area how to be a journalist and all those great things. But the thing that was amazing about Dave Campbell was I met him, and he was already well into his 70s, maybe already 80 years old. And you would talk to him about sports, and he would say, well, I remember the fifth baseball game. Not the first, like, it's the first, but like this was the fifth baseball game I ever listened to on the radio. It was the Red Sox, and Jimmy Fox was the first baseman. He went 3 for 4. He got hit by a pitch, and when he got hit by a pitch, that meant whoever the third was on third base. He remembered all that stuff, and then he would say things like, "Yeah, I remember something that happened in this press conference, which was the Texas OU game in 1961." And you're like, "How is this possible?" And not only the fact, like, it wasn't like he was 25 and some sort of like, the Rain Man or something. He was in his 80s and just had this like minute by minute recall of things that happened in his life. It was unbelievable to hear him tell things. I can remember things now more from when I was younger than I do now recently. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's because I was so saturated in it and box scores and, there weren't 19 college games on one day. It was 1 or 2. And in reading the newspaper, you just digested who was the national title in 1975 or who was it. And now it's kind of hard for me to piece that together. He was doing it 30 years prior to that. He's amazing. And he was, and again, the great Dave Campbell, his name was on the press box at the old Floyd Casey. Oh, no, it was in the media room. There was the Dave Campbell press box at the old Floyd Casey Stadium, where up until, when was that, 13? They played there until 2013. Yeah, do you remember as much now as you did when you were in, like Craig, do you remember as much now as you did when you were growing up and saturated, like in the middle of it?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't really feel like anything's changed all that much. I mean, I think maybe my interest level in certain sports has waned or grown. But, yeah, ultimately I haven't run into, like, I don't remember this year's MVP, but I remember it when I was in second grade. I don't have anything like that.
No, I'm with you, Craig. I'm like, my recall's fine. There's just stuff I don't care about as much anymore.
Yeah, that's definitely that.
I would when I was younger. Of course, it was the Jordan era and all that. I would know every NBA like NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, all those box scores, all the college teams. I would know that. But as I've gotten older, my interest in the NBA has waned to, I love the postseason and I love the offseason of the NBA because it cracks me up how much money gets thrown around and the way that they maneuver to get people on rosters. But the regular season, I know what's going on, but if somebody said like, oh man, did you see what Ja Morant did the other night? I'm like, well, I'm sure it was awesome, but no.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if there was like a national ESPN show or something, I could find my way, and how to involve myself and be okay there. But, the shows where you literally have to talk about every single thing that happens and pretend like you're an expert on it, like most of the daily talk shows, like when you're national and you go like, the Islanders are on a 5-game win, like, I'm sorry, but not everybody knows that as well as they also know the NFL circles and the NBA circles and the Major League Baseball circles. And let's get them to chime in on the Olympics, and then let's get their thoughts on MMA. And it's just like nobody. I mean, maybe like a handful of people have like that all-encompassing knowledge to where they're, they know what they're talking about. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think as you get older, you probably pare it down, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's probably not so much the natural is that you know every single thing. But then again, I'm sure, especially with the rise of sports betting, there are a lot of people that are far more knowledgeable in a scope of areas that they normally wouldn't be otherwise because they're now suddenly betting on hockey or, Tuesday games, in the Horizon League, like whatever it may be. But yeah, like for me, I'm not a big gambler, and I've kind of gotten to the point where I love football, college and pro, and high school, and I like some other things to smaller extents. But yeah, let me talk just college football all the time, and I'd be pretty much fine with that, honestly.
All right, so I just threw out the date 1972, and I checked to make sure I was right. That the Dolphins won the Super Bowl, and it wasn't just because I remember that. They beat Washington, but they were unbeaten. USC won the national title. I knew that. The Lakers had a team that had a 33-game winning streak and won an NBA title, and also that the Oakland A's won the World Series because they started a run of 3 in a row. I can't tell you that 5 years ago. Maybe college football, I could piece it together, but for some reason, the 60s or the 70s and maybe even to the 80s, I could just go straight into one of those. And I maybe in college football can do that, but not quite as much of late.
I used to be better with specific rosters when I played video games a lot. And then as you get older, the video games change a little bit. And then I don't have time. Now I have a fiance, and if I had to, I don't think I would if I still played video games.
I honestly think, too, it's just you get older and it doesn't matter.
No, it's not. I agree.
I don't care about the millions of dollars you're making. I really don't, that doesn't get me in a tizzy. Like, oh my God, you see that new contract? I mean, if it's something, crazy, then we'll talk about it. But it's not like when I saw a contract when I was 25 and I was like, holy cow, man, that's crazy. Now I'm just like, all right, cool, whatever.
It'll be handled. Somebody will go right past it within a year. I'm not talking so much about that. I'm talking about the winners, like the champions of certain years. I just don't have that recollection or I don't have that memory of specific years like I used to.
Yeah, but it is your interest wanes, or the sense of childlike wonder about some of the things you liked before, about. Especially when this guy's getting this much money. When you get older, you're like good for that guy.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, whatever. Or you get mad because your team you maybe thinks overpays him. But again,
I don't think of anything anymore as anyone being overpaid. It does. Like I saw a note, and I think it was from an NFL analyst. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say for me, when it comes to remembering things, I feel like not having SportsCenter on a constant loop like I did as a child, and that information just being drilled in my head, it's taken away from what I remember now compared to when I was younger.
SportsCenter used to be a go-to thing. And again, I don't, very rarely do I watch. I like Scott Van Pelt late at night, who summarizes it and does a great job and has really kind of made that. I don't stay up that late most of the time. We're now joined by Christian Robinson, Baylor linebackers coach, with us on 365 Sports, who's been in meetings, met with Coach Aranda, and much more. Christian, hey, thanks for being a part of the show with Craig and Paul, and I'm David Smoak. What's it been like for you with the transfer portal ending about the time you arrived? And then, of course, National Signing Day, even though just one name, and getting to know things. How hectic is it for you, or has it been for you?
I appreciate you guys having me on, and sorry about running a little bit behind, but it's been exciting. I think that's what I would say. You get used to in college football that things move at 1,000 miles per hour, but that's what you ask the players to do, so we move at that rate. And getting to come in, and I know Coach Aranda and Coach Powledge has already put together a good group of guys that I'm excited to get to coach, and we just added Mike Smith from Liberty, and he's going to add to depth and obviously help us chase after the things we're trying to do. And but it's always 100 miles an hour, even as I'm talking to you right now, out of breath as usual. So.
Well, we're glad you made it. We understand why, because you had a little extra meeting with Dave Aranda after the one you were already in, and I guess you do have to say yes to the head coach. We're talking to Christian Robinson, Baylor linebackers coach, on 365 Sports.
Christian, you step into a position group that's been pretty good for a good stretch, and you've got some veterans. You're gonna have to pepper in some of the young guys. What have you thought about the room so far? Have you gotten to know anybody yet?
I have. We've actually done some team activities and gotten the guys together, and that's been some of the most enjoyable things about what we get to do is starting those relationships and explain to them how you create value for them as people and as players. And I think that's Coach Aranda told me coming in that that's what he wanted from me, was to build relationships, to foster those. Being a former college football player myself, having played at the University of Georgia and been in the shoes that they're in, I think that that's the part that I'm excited to bring on a daily basis, is that knowledge of what they're going to be asked to do every day and the rigors that come with being a college athlete.
Coach, can you just take us through the process and getting the phone call from Dave Aranda, or however it unfolded on your end, and just take us through, the journey that eventually led you to being in Waco now?
When everything ended at Auburn, I really, this is what I've been telling the players as well, and I mean it wholeheartedly. I was looking at myself and saying, what am I looking for? And I was looking for somebody that I wanted to be like. And when I think of Coach Aranda, he's somebody that I met when I was coaching linebackers at the University of Florida. And I remember just watching his route, the steps that he had taken. And he was somebody that, as a linebackers coach, I don't think you could find a better mentor. And so to be able to come, get the call from him and say, hey, if you got a little bit of time, we were flying to see my family up in Nashville for Christmas. And it was just excited to just get on the phone with him. And 7 hours later, he offered me the job. And it was exciting. And he wanted me to focus on relationships with the players. And the football piece is something that he cares about. But he believes in that we can train the guys to do what we need them to do. And I want you to have a relationship with him. And that was the focal point of it, and why I really wanted to be here as well.
Can you tell that is all what you have right now at Baylor as far as what he says he wants? Can you see that inside the football facilities and also the offices?
Yeah, absolutely. You can tell. I got to meet some of the coaching staff and support staff when I went to the convention this year in Charlotte, and that was the stuff that they were focused on. And that's what I was searching for. And a place where it's the relationships on the field and off the field that help you be successful when it matters most, and the 12 opportunities you get on Saturday in the fall. And so that's what we're spending time doing right now. Like I said, I've been spending time with the guys and trying to get to know them, how they take their goals and dreams, because that's what's going to drive them. And helping them achieve their goals along with the team goals, that's what my job is and what I've been tasked with doing.
I'm curious about something, and I've always wanted to ask somebody this question who has played at one rival school and coached at another. Because, look, when you play at someplace, you're kind of focused on the guys in the other shirts. They're the enemy. They're the bad guys. Like, they're the guys we got to beat today. And especially with you, Georgia and Florida has one of the best rivalry games. The cocktail party there in Jacksonville. It's a whole big thing. For you to be in that rivalry for 4 or 5 years as a player, and then for a couple years go into it as a coach, like, it is, I know when you get a job, you're focused on your team, your guys, what your goal is that day. But is it surreal to be looking across and seeing guys in red and going, well, that was me?
Yeah, it really is to a certain extent. I think my default mode is I get competitive. Knowing the locker room, knowing the people and what's important to them, and then being a part of the new team, both sides. I did that. I was a GA at Ole Miss and in Mississippi State as well. And so to go through that and know what the other person is thinking and what they say, I think that is a driving force for me. And I think it's a heightened competitiveness for me. And in the meetings, I think the players could notice that it was important to me because I understand the rivalry and being on both sides.
You discuss what the philosophy or the mission statement is for Coach Aranda and the staff and the players and relationships and whatever else. And I think, and we've talked to him about this before, sometimes people look at personalities and who somebody is outward, and they go, well, he doesn't seem to have that fire. That's misunderstood quite a bit, isn't it, Christian?
I'd agree so. That is not that's not a soft thing. That is a understanding what the driving force is in this world, is just the relationships, whether that's somebody that you're close with or somebody that gets you riled up. I think understanding the relationships and how you can make a group of people decide to play together the way that you ask them to do when it matters most, that is what coaching is taking the group that you have, that you've developed, and spent your days with. And that's what I've told the guys that I've met with is, as long as we decide what we're going to do and hold each other to it, we can go accomplish all the things that we have set out in front of us. And that's the exciting part about being a part of a team and especially in college football, any given Saturday, you can put together the performance that you need to be successful.
I know football is football ultimately at the end of the day, but, I mean, you have been pretty much a career SEC guy from a player to all the various stops as an assistant coach. What's kind of your just working knowledge and thoughts when you hear Big 12 football?
I've played several times throughout my career teams from the Big 12, and one thing that I've noticed is just the style of play that is unique to this part of the country, but to this conference. And I think that's exciting because especially playing the teams that I played in the SEC, you were going to see some similar things, but it was the teams that were different, whether on offense or defense, that always present challenges. And so to bring the knowledge of the schemes that I've been a part of and help Coach Ballage and Coach Aranda as we get ready each week, I'm excited just because that's going to be a new challenge and something that excites me every week.
You played the game at a high level, obviously, at Georgia. Mike, you are a coach's son, and your father was a high school coach. How much of that was in your blood, and how much of advice did you get from him, and what did he tell you?
It's something every day I'm on the phone with my dad talking about the things that I'm dealing with because for many years I rode to school with him every day. Got to hear him deal with, head coaching issues, position issues, coordinator issues. And I really believe I'm in this position because of all those days that I sat in that car, listening to my dad deal with and tackle those things. And you talk about the position. My dad played linebacker for the Washington Redskins, was on a Super Bowl team. It did it at every level. And so when you talk about a mentor and then someone being your father as well, every day I'm getting taught on the things that I know are important, and not only dealing with football players, but dealing with people. And I know it's a blessing, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And every single day caring about making me my best and helping other people.
So at Georgia, what happened with you as someone who was kind of quiet, who then somebody quoted in a story, one of the most outgoing people I've ever met when they described you?
I think it was just growing up and something that I work with my players everywhere I've been, and I know that'll be something here, is getting the guys to take the next step. I think a lot of times, especially in the world that we live in, it's easy to handle your business, to focus on you. But what I tell the guys every day is we'll be judged on how we affect other people. We're the quarterbacks, the defense. And so getting guys that understand that there's certain traits that you have to play this position at a high level, and you got to demand that every day. And you have to make the calls. You got to get us in the right looks. You have to be the coach on the field. And I believe that that's what drove me to want to get into coaching, was understanding that I could help make the team better. When I was injured as an upperclassman, I was able to help those younger guys. And I've taken that same approach as a coach. It's my job to help prepare them for the challenges that they haven't seen yet, and build that confidence over time where they can achieve their goals and dreams on the football field.
You know why I know when you say relationships that it's not just something because Dave Aranda brought it up? The story I was looking at in 2016, you even brought it up back then about what relationships mean to you. Life is about relationships. I've always had those that were built at Georgia, working here, et cetera. So it meant something to you even 6 or 7 years ago.
I see so many coaches that poured into me, and what a well-timed word or a moment with a coach can help you believe in yourself and push you farther than you think you can go. And I think that that's what coaching is. And I've had a chance to meet a lot of coaches here in the state of Texas that they believe the same thing, and they're a part of the community. They're ingrained in the community. And I seek to do that every day with the group that I'm responsible for.
What's it like to see your alma mater having the level of success that they are right now?
I got asked this when I got here too, and I was definitely excited for the community. A lot of people that I care about, a lot of people that raised me in Athens, and it just shows that that the consistency in performance, that's something that we talk about in our room here, and I know that they speak of there. And being able to do what other people are not willing to do with your time, with your attention to detail and your toughness, and those are all traits that I know that the past 2 years that team has had, and it's been a great example for me, and to point to certain things and knowing the people in those rooms and what it takes to be a championship caliber team year in and year out.
You played for Mark Richt at Georgia, and he was, when I was a student at FSU, he was the offensive coordinator for the first couple of years. So I've always been a huge Mark Richt guy. What was he like as a coach? He seems to me to be, and I think that sometimes maybe he gets lost in the shuffle a little bit when people are talking about some of the better coaches of this era, because he was so consistent and so even-keeled, and his teams always kind of were, you knew what they were going to be.
You know, he was one of the best people I've ever been around. And I think between my father and playing for Mark Richt, I didn't realize how spoiled I was to have men like that in my life. And Coach Richt was a father to many that didn't have one. And I think that is something that resonated with me is, you know, there's going to be lots of times that the guys, they won't remember a lot of the plays, but they'll remember how you made them feel and how you poured into them. And he did that every single day. And he was consistent. You know, we had really one bad year while we were there, but besides that, to compete for the East, and there were some good teams, some generational players that we had to battle every week in that conference. And to be as consistent, that means he took multiple groups and multiple staffs to be able to go play in those games, and it just shows that he was a huge driving force in that, and somebody that I'm forever thankful that he gave me an opportunity not only to play but start my coaching career with him.
You have been able to, at least as you mentioned, the Texas high school football. You come from a hotbed of talent, Georgia, and what you've done, Auburn, Florida, etc. What have you seen so far? And obviously you're hitting the ground running, but Texas is loaded, Florida is loaded, Georgia is loaded, three of the most lucrative, I guess you could say, in talent states in the country. Your thoughts so far?
I've been excited to be here because when I walked into a high school, and every single one I went to this January, the commitment by the community and the school to providing the best for their student athletes. And so you're getting guys that are developed, that understand strength program, that understand how to implement a defense or an offense when you're going in. And I think that just shows you that anytime the culture in the state is committed to a style of play and preparation, that you're going to get a player that is more times than not ready to step in and tackle those challenges in the transition to college football. And a lot of these high school coaches are like college coaches. They are dealing with a lot of those same issues, and it's exciting because when you sit down with them, you're definitely talking to a peer. And I think that as somebody who watched a lot of coaches come sit down and talk to my dad when I was a ball boy, I'm enjoying sitting down with the coaches here and talking about the same issues that we're dealing with.
Did you ever get caught up in all the toilet paper at Toomer's Corner?
You know, I had a couple opportunities to go down there, and it was exciting. Definitely been a college football fan my whole life. My dad played at South Carolina. My uncles played at Clemson, and I went to Georgia, and I've been about everywhere else you could think of. And so to see the traditions, I'm excited about many of the ones that I'll get to be a part of here and know why and why it means so much to the people that you represent. And I'm a college football fan, and I'm excited about me and Kaylee getting connected with the people here in Waco and starting those here.
Last thing, Christian, when Dave Aranda offered you the job, I think you said 7 hours later, what was his reaction? How long did it take for you to say yes?
I said I need to talk to my family, but I told him, I said, Coach, this is where I want to be. I think when you talk to so many people around the profession about how they feel about a person, and then and talk about the detail, how intentional he is with how he goes about his business with players and staff. I don't think there's many people like that in the profession, and it's unique. and something I wanted to be a part of. And I got to a point in my career that if I'm not working for somebody that I want to grow to be like, I don't know if I'm in the right place. And I know I'm in the right place, and somebody that I saw for many years do the things I hope to do with my career. And I'm just honored to be a part of this program.
Hey, that's good job interview advice. Be eager, but be cool about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean, absolutely. But you gotta step it back. You can't be too excited. Plus you gotta talk it well with the wife. You can't just say yes. But yeah.
Yes, sir. So she's a football fan. Grew up. She was in a Tennessee household, so I got a lot of grief when I came home to ask her dad to marry her. But he's been supportive, and he's been a fan of everywhere I've been, and so I'm thankful to have the people I have in my life.
Man, you do have different levels of blood of the SEC throughout your body. Christian, it's been great to talk to you and get to know you. We'll get to know you even more. Welcome, obviously, to Baylor University, and we'll cover you and see you, and hope you get a chance to take a deep breath here pretty soon. I doubt it.
You're always moving fast, but we move in on Valentine's Day, and so I can't wait to have a house here and call Waco home, and I'm ready to go to work.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time. We appreciate you.
Thank
Christian
you.
Robinson, Baylor's inside linebackers coach, with us. How ironic is this? He was at Auburn. He, of course, then they hired Hugh Freeze, who hired Ron Roberts, who was fired at Baylor. He was the defensive coordinator, but handled a lot of what, of course, was going on at the linebacker position. And now Christian Robinson is the inside linebackers coach at Baylor for Dave Aranda.
Yeah, and just hearing him on the phone, it feels like their personalities align pretty well. I mean, even-keeled dudes.
There were some after, of course, when you have a disappointing year, and there were thoughts about where's the energy on staff, and that can be overrated sometimes, just the default, or, there's got to be some reason. When you listen to Matthew Powledge, not that Eric Mateos can't go full throttle or others, but when you listen to when we had Matthew Powledge, and then what we just had with Christian Robinson, they've got energy within the staff, as if they didn't have it already. They do, but that's pretty cool to hear from Christian Robinson. His letter to the Auburn fans: from the first day at Tumors to Cadillacs, first win on the Plains, we love getting to be a part of the community. There are very few places as welcoming and iconic in the country as Auburn. Kaylee and I will miss all the great people that make this university special. To the players, I hope you carry the lessons we shared. Cherish the days you are given to impact others. Auburn is built on work, hard work. I can't wait to see the great things you do on and off the field. That's from him to the Auburn family. He's now a part of Dave Aranda and the Baylor family. Paul Catalina's Top 5 is next.
Cars priced right, both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance, and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com, or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
There are 26 6 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 545. Or is it 555? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 good, bad things about Texas OU staying until 2025. If that does happen, talks are stalled. It's probably still at 50-50, but there's a reasonable chance that this thing ends when the contract ends and not a minute before. Number 5, the good thing. It's another year of that crazy men's basketball league. I think 2 years of the 14 team, throwing Houston in there with Texas and all. Like I think that'll be great. It'll be fun to watch. It'll be stressful. It's already stressful now, but you throw all that into that, and, who knows if, the other 3 can.
Brigham Young has an arena that's one of the largest college arenas in the country.
Yeah, so all of that'd be great for 2 years to have that 14
Cincinnati's history with Oscar Robertson and company. I mean, I know it's not been the same. And then UCF, again, is this young, up-and-coming, who all of what they do.
Mm-hmm. So I think that'll be good. But number 4, bad. One more year of horns down being a penalty. We have to put up with that. I think we're all kind of over it now, but
don't
it'll
know
still
how
be a thing.
Yormark thinks about that.
What, horns down?
Yeah, I wonder if he just says, screw that.
Well, I mean, you should. I mean, but people maybe need to let it go. It's been made worse. The weird thing about it is it's a very cyclical, stupid thing. It's been made worse by Texas even bringing it up. And then now people do it for spite as opposed to just in the moment of doing something. But one more year of us having to deal with that and that being a conversation, and it may be happening in a game and affecting it, where it would not happen in any other conference, but this one.
Yeah, I think this is all very dumb, the whole horns down thing. I mean, not the hand signal itself. I mean, I understand why, people do it, but it's way too much has been made of this. Mm-hmm. I mean, way too much. Like it's a big controversy or something, and it has no reason to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really doesn't. And the conference started it themselves by making it a penalty to begin with, and I still don't really understand. I mean, I don't care enough to delve into like all of the reasonings behind it. I know it's taunting, and there's that part of it, but I feel like there's just way too much made of this stupid hand signal and the reaction to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. But
there's only one hand signal with a finger or two that would be offensive.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like the throat slash or the choke gesture or all that other stuff. I mean, it's just
the opposite of, but there's lots of that goes on.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I just don't understand why this is singled out. But again, I haven't dove into, the details of all of that, but I think it's silly.
Yeah. Number 3. Good. Maybe the league can market the send-off. I think that they should. I don't know. Like, I get that Texas, especially based on the fact that they didn't do anything about the schedule release the other day, makes me think that they wouldn't necessarily want this. But if I'm the Big 12, I'm going to, like you said earlier, Craig, squeeze every last penny and drop out of them. And that means, like, look, I'm gonna make a big deal. If this is the last time something's happened or this is happening in this league, I'm gonna market it. I'm gonna try to make sure people start watching, and then maybe they start watching and realize that the league is good and outside of those two teams, and get a little excited about it and get hooked. I mean, you got to push it as much as you can, and instead of pretending like just one day we're all going to wake up and forget that it was ever a thing.
I mean, if you got a couple all-stars on your roster, you can try and maximize what you can out of them, or you can just let them, like, have a pity party on their way out or whatever. I mean, not that they're sulking by any means. They're ready to get out, and so is everybody else ready for them to get out. But, yeah, if they're all going to be together, then squeeze, like I said, every last drop of attention and eyeballs and everything else that you can out of them that's going to be beneficial for your league, because you'll never, ever have this type of control over these two ever again. And so, I think that whatever marketing that is or what have you, I think you got to be intent with the schedule. And I think that they, ultimately left it up to computers, but I do feel like there had to be some personal touches as far as the schedules go. And if not, then there probably needs to be moving forward. Like, what if the computer doesn't spit out the maximization of the possible schedule you could have for those two on their way out, then you probably need to tweak a few things, because, you need to take full advantage of it. And no, that doesn't mean sending them to 10 road games and, in conference play, but make as many juicy matchups as you can. Make as many, big time feel games as you possibly can. And I definitely think there's a way to market it, and it's not nah, hey, goodbye. But in so many ways, for the ones staying, it could be that. And for those leaving, it's ending on a bitter note, but there was a lot of good done over the years. There was a lot of bad and ugly too at times, but they're going to have a big part in the history of the Big 12 no matter what. And, I don't think you have to necessarily go out completely on the outs. There can be some level of mutual respect, but both parties would have to want to play into that. And, not even acknowledging the schedule release, is not really mutual respect. But, I understand there's going to be some of that along the way.
Number 2. Bad. One more year of petty BS. I mean, because it gets
like retweeting
petty.
The schedule and not really saying anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is where it is right now, and we know that this was done under cloak of night and very backdoor kind of stuff that happened with the negotiations for them to join the SEC, and then the Big 12 found out, not from Texas and Oklahoma, they found out from essentially Texas A&M, and they found out from Brent Zwerneman that this was going to happen. That wound is already there, and it's going to take a long time to heal, but you can't go back in time. So I think being petty about all this stuff, it's not going to change, but it would be nice if you just acknowledge, like, look, it's going to be another year or two. Let's enjoy it while we can. And then afterwards, it's over. It's it. That's it. Because otherwise, you're just going to stress yourself out for no reason. Because we know one thing. In 2025, Texas and Oklahoma will be chanting SEC. That's what we know. So you can either make it work or you can.
And even on the day they released the schedule, it was almost again like, we don't have
petty BS.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's a perfect thing. And Paxton says this could easily be number 1. And Paxton is a Texas fan, and there's a little pettiness among others as well. But that okay, and here they're going to have to retweet it again next year. It looks like
it's not that big of a deal, but it was pretty petty. And I'm sure there's other examples of what the Big 12 did or what some school did or whatever. It's just like, why even make it that though? Like, everybody just go about their business, handle your stuff. Promote what you have in front of you, do the best you can, and you're still going to the SEC. Like, I mean, I don't really think there should be any pettiness back and forth. Like, I understand why the remaining 8 or whatever are going to always have that feeling of abandonment and what have you, but there's 4 schools that are super excited to be joining. I understand there's 2 blue bloods that aren't exactly thrilled about it, but you created this.
Yeah.
Nobody put a gun to your head and said, you have to go to the Big 12 and sign this contract that lasts until then. Like, you signed a contract. Don't be mad at the people upholding you to that contract. And it's not just the Big 12, it's Fox.
Yeah.
So it's not as though Brett Yormark's like sitting there with you tied up in a room stored away somewhere, and he's got a ransom over you. No, I mean, like, this is just contractual. So everybody have the best time that they can, put on the best that you can, and yeah, all this little high school stuff is for the birds as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it just creates extra animosity and maybe an awkward tension when there doesn't need to be.
That's probably
it's like I've always said, the SEC has hateful rivals. Auburn, Alabama, they would like to see the other one just disappear, and then they probably miss them. But they also understand that they understand Vanderbilt is important because you're as strong as your weakest link when it comes to that. And the Big 12 has never understood that. Maybe they will post Oklahoma and Texas.
There's been a lot of that, from probably not understanding just how much Texas and Oklahoma have held everything together. But I also think there's an element of Oklahoma and Texas. They're like, well, we got to pay all the bills. We're the ones that have. That's who you are. Yes, that's who you are in this situation. There were benefits that came from that, like having your own TV network for the long. Like, so it wasn't as though you didn't. There's the horns down penalty. Like, don't act like there's not some benefits that are probably not given to you in other situations where you're more on even footing. So, yeah, it's like, yeah, you are expected to float because you are the biggest brands, and now you don't have to worry about that, and everybody's not going to have to worry about that, and everything can settle down in that regard. But yeah, that's each side's role. And that's obviously, why everything's coming to an end. But yeah, that was part of your pull.
You're leaving because you feel like the rest of the conference, and I've seen this from many angles, did not live up to what and who they were. And yet, had either one of Texas and Oklahoma had one more national title, and not 17 years ago or 22 years ago, the conference might be a little bit better off.
Well, yeah, look, everybody did their share of not maybe pulling their weight, depending on your perspective on things.
No one's ever argued the value of Texas and OU. No one ever.
But like Texas and OU, if you're mad about paying the bills, you also demanded for years that you both got more money than everybody else. So
and there were some others that were helping. That you helped to run off over the years.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, A&M and Nebraska for two. We're also getting more money, and then you ran them off. So this does feel, because of at least with A&M, like A&M, Nebraska, Missouri, Colorado, those schools said they were leaving, and the next year they were gone. Yeah. Like it was Nebraska and Colorado the one year, and then A&M, Missouri the next year, and then all these new contracts came about with grants of rights and all that stuff. That's what kind of all changed that. So the pettiness was only it was petty, but it was post everybody leaving. They weren't playing, so it wasn't bad. But this could be 2 more years of this. That's what
all right.
Yeah, but number one.
That could be one.
Yeah, number one. I wanted to end on a good note. I want sunshine in the world. Number one.
You?
Yeah, of course. That's the most believable thing I've ever said. 1 more year of rivalries. So 1 more year of those things. We would get another bedlam. We'd get some of the games maybe that we didn't get this year on the schedule that we were all upset about not seeing. So you'd get that. So, I think that's not a terrible thing to get 1 more bedlam, to get some of the matchups we wanted to see.
And some that we're not going to see in 23, we might now see in 24.
Yeah, I mean, I think the schedule's probably a bit more complicated than just flipping home and away. Yeah. You're going to have to do more work than that if it comes to that. I don't really believe they're going to be playing in 2024. I'll go on record right now. I don't think they're going to be in the Big 12. I think there's a resolution met. But as I said earlier, if they have to play in 2024, that's not going to upset me. I think that's ultimately good for the Big 12. So, if it works out that way, I know people just want to have the room cleared and the air cleared and all that, but really, it'd be beneficial for the conference on a general level to have those 2 brands for another extra year. But I think another year of bedlam, if that's possible, or I don't know who Texas would even care to play. Texas Tech, Texas, or something like that. Texas Bay. I know that they're not all that interested, but yeah, to have some of those games 1 more go around. K-State, Oklahoma, since we're not getting it this year. Unless it's in the championship game. I think that'd be a logical 2024 game that you'd need to schedule. Oklahoma State, Texas, right? They're not playing. Is that right? I believe. So I think that'd be a logical 2024 game. So, yeah, there's some easy ways to fill the schedule with some final matchups.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that you might do that, and then there's going to be a couple of others that make sense that might not be played if they continue in to 2024. And yet again, retired stockbroker, thank you for yet another super chat. One chat that I want to bring up.
Thank you.
Was from Working Man. We all know it was a rule horns down to try to make Texas look bad, and Texas fans didn't care. I would think any Texas fan I've ever asked doesn't care, but let's not forget, don't point the finger at the Big 12. Mac Brown.
Yeah, started it.
Mac Brown's the one that felt it was offensive and kind of complained about it, so maybe you don't know that. And again, it is really freaking silly about
it's not that big a
hand
deal.
signs
No,
unless
but
it's the middle finger.
Look, when it came up, they were talking about it on an ESPN Thursday night broadcast at Iowa State. Jesse Palmer did the gesture describing it. Then they came back from break, and he had to apologize for doing it. Who do you think made him do that? It wasn't the Big 12. It was somebody from Texas, and I think that somebody was the Lost Dots. I think that's what that was. So he was just showing it, and then he's like, I have to apologize for doing that. I was just trying to, that was how that all kind of
Working
got
Man, he's not
gasoline.
at Texas anymore, but he's the one that kind of created that this is offensive and all of that. It doesn't matter where he is anymore. That's when the rule came about. All right. Thank you to all of you. Every single one of you on the chat room. Again, happy birthday to S. Michael DeHart. We appreciate you. Was it 59, I think is what he said?
Yep.
Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross, Faith Lynch was here earlier. Emery Winter putting everything together for Sports Tonight on the CW at 10:30. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, back at it Monday at 3. I'm David Smoak. We have amazing sponsors start to finish. We've started yet another month here on 365 Sports. Have a great weekend and good night.